After my divorce from my husband was finalized, I moved in with my daughter, Natalie. About 6 months later, something unexpected happened. It was my day off, and I was relaxing at home with Natalie when I got a call from my mom. To my shock, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law had gone to my parents' house and let themselves in without permission. I quickly got ready and went to my parents' place. When I arrived, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were sitting in the living room, waiting for me. I had no idea why they were there. "Why did you both show up at my parents' house?" I asked. My ex-husband, John, surprised me with his answer, "I want you to pay me back the money you owe me. My name is Aaron, and I'm 40 years old. I worked in an office, and I was married to John for 14 years. Our daughter, Natalie, was born just around the time we got married, and she's now in 8th grade. We were once a happy family, and I thought we would always have a loving home." I met John on a blind date and was instantly drawn to his friendly, kind, and cheerful personality. He liked me too, and we stayed in touch throughout high school. After a few meetups, we started dating. A year later, he proposed, and we got married. I loved him deeply, and I was so happy when he chose me to be his wife. I had a close group of friends from high school, and we would always get together. When I told them I was getting married, they all congratulated me, and they came to our wedding. They joked about how they'd all want to get married too someday. After my wedding, one by one, my friends also got married. We laughed about how we'd gone from a group of teenagers to adults. Then, as I got pregnant, they all started having kids too. Soon, we weren't just mom friends, we were a group of parents. I felt like we were going through life together, and I believed we'd stay close forever. I was happy being a wife and mother, but I also loved working. After college, I got a job in the planning and development department at a big company, and I worked hard every day. The work was tough, but it was also rewarding. Every day felt like a chance to learn and improve. One of my friends from the moms group, who was a stay-at-home mom, once told me, "You're really a workaholic, Aaron, but you also have a fulfilling life with your family. It's like you have two bodies or something." She thought I was strong, but honestly, I wished I had the energy of a superhero. Both John and Natalie helped a lot at home, which made it easier to balance work and family life. "I'm home." "Oh, Mommy, welcome home." When Natalie was little, she would greet me with a smile and a hug after work. Just hugging her made all my tiredness go away. "Welcome home, honey, dinner is ready," John would say. John stopped working full-time after Natalie was born and switched to a part-time job so I could keep my career. He worked at a cafe and took care of picking Natalie up from school. By the time I got home after a long day, John would have dinner ready. It was such a relief to come home to a hot meal. His cooking always made me feel better. My life felt like it was supported by my husband and daughter, which allowed me to focus on my job. As I got better at my work, I was promoted. That meant more overtime, and I often came home late. By then, Natalie was older and understood that I had a lot of work to do. John also started working longer hours at the cafe. He had become really interested in coffee and learned how to roast beans. He experimented with different brewing methods, both at work and at home. His coffee was great, and we'd often enjoy it together as a family. But slowly, I didn't notice that our family dynamics were starting to change. One day, Natalie came to me looking upset. "What's wrong? You said you wanted to talk about something." "Well, actually, the other day, when I went to see a movie with my friends, I saw Dad with another woman." "What?" "They weren't holding hands or anything, but they seemed a little too friendly, and since last year, I've noticed Dad on the phone a lot before you come home. He seems really happy while looking at his phone. At first, I thought he was talking to you, Mom, but after seeing him with that woman, I'm not sure anymore." Natalie's words hit me hard. She looked so sad, in a way no middle schooler should. "I'm so sorry, sweetie, I didn't realize you felt this way," I said, hugging her tightly. "I've been a little focused on work, haven't I?" "No, I think it's cool that you work so hard, Mom, so don't feel bad about it." I felt really happy and touched by Natalie's kind and understanding words. "Thank you, Natalie, I'll talk to your dad about this, okay? And if he's really having an affair, I think I'll get a divorce. Would that be okay with you, honey?" When I asked her that, she nodded. I don't like the idea of my dad having an affair. Just knowing that and being with him would make me feel bad. Hearing this from my daughter made me realize how much I had neglected my family. I knew I needed to look into this situation carefully. not just for my own sake, but for Natalie's. She had the courage to bring up such a difficult topic, and I had to do something about it. I quickly hired an investigation agency to look into John's affair. The results shocked me. John was indeed having an affair, just like Natalie had suspected. They even had photos of him with his mistress. But what surprised me even more was who his affair partner was. It was Stacy, one of my old high school classmates and a member of the mom's group. I was more shocked by Stacy's involvement than the affair itself. I couldn't believe that someone I had trusted and considered a friend would betray me like this. Stacy was a stay-at-home mom, and she was the last in our group to get married. She had a young child, around 5 years old, and yet she was having an affair with John, neglecting her own responsibilities as a mother. When I saw the evidence, I was so stunned that I couldn't move for a moment. If I hadn't been in my room, Natalie could have seen those photos, and that would have made things even worse. I wasn't ready to confront John, and I definitely couldn't show Natalie those pictures. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. Then, one of my friends from the mom's group mentioned that she had switched jobs, so I thought it would be a good chance to suggest that we all get together. Stacy didn't know that I knew about the affair, so my friends arranged the meetup, and I planned to confront Stacy, my husband's lover, 3 weeks later. During that time, I quickly hired a lawyer and started preparing for the divorce. I told Natalie what I had discovered and explained that her dad and I were getting divorced. We spent our days off looking for new apartments to move into. Finally, the day came when I would face Stacy at the gathering. At the restaurant, we all caught up with each other, and I asked my friend about her new job. We all shared updates. Stacy still had no idea I knew about her secret, so we all talked casually. Everyone is working, so it's good that things are changing. I'm just a housewife, so I'm stuck in the same routine, Stacy said. Well, you don't have to work, Stacy, since your husband can support you, another friend said. I do appreciate my husband, but sometimes I feel bored with it, Stacy replied. That was my cue. It was time to confront her. So that's why you're having an affair with other people's husbands, right? Huh? Stacy and the rest of my friends froze when they heard my words. Hey, Aaron, what do you mean by that? One of my friends asked, confused. Stacy stayed silent, her face going pale. It looks like Stacy is having an affair with my husband, John, I said bluntly. No way, you must be joking. Stacy would never do something like that, one of my friends said, defending her. Stacy quickly denied it. That's not true. Aaron, what are you talking about all of a sudden? You must have mistaken me for someone else. Oh, really? Then why don't you all take a look at this? I said, pulling the photos from my bag and placing them on the table. My friend stared at the pictures, shocked. Oh my gosh, Stacy, why? Stacy clearly hadn't expected me to have proof. She covered her mouth, stunned. Why did you have an affair with my husband? I asked, still trying to process it. Stacy finally gave in. I'm really sorry. I walked into the cafe where your husband works. I didn't know he worked there. After that, I started going there more often. My husband provides for me, but after we got married, he stopped caring about me, and I started feeling lonely. Stacy started crying, but I wasn't moved by her tears. Even if you were lonely, having an affair, especially with a friend's husband, is just wrong, I said calmly. Turning to my friends, I added, I'm sorry to involve all of you, but I need to let Stacy know that I'll be suing for alimony. I've already sent certified mail to her house, so her husband should have received it by now. Stacy gasped in shock. You need to be held accountable for your actions, I said firmly. Stacy nodded, looking pale and defeated. The rest of the mom's group was upset and said, we can't trust you anymore, Stacy. We left the restaurant, leaving Stacy behind. Now that Stacy was out of the way, it was time to deal with John. I'm sure Stacy had already contacted John about what happened, so when I got home, John was waiting by the entrance, looking panicked. Hey, how could you do this? What? I just got a call from Stacy. Are you really talking about your affair? Why are you making this so public? You're terrible. You pretended to be a good husband, but behind my back, you were having an affair. No, that's... But Stacy has a family too. Why expose her to her husband like that? That's ridiculous. I guess people who have affairs think the same way, huh? You think as long as the other person doesn't know, it's fine, right? But what you did was wrong, so now everything has to come to light as part of your punishment. That's why I'm divorcing you and demanding alimony and child support. With the affair already proven and no way for him to deny it, John agreed to the divorce, but he was reluctant to pay alimony and child support. After I hired a good lawyer and made it clear I was ready to take the case to court, he finally agreed. So, I divorced my ex-husband, sold the house we'd lived in, and moved into a new apartment with Natalie. I filed for alimony from both John and Stacy, and they each paid me $30,000. I also demanded child support from John. After the divorce was finalized, Natalie and I settled into our new life. As expected, the whole situation traumatized me, but over time, the pain began to heal. However, about 6 months later, something unexpected happened. I was relaxing at home with Natalie on my day off when I received a call from my mother. What she told me shocked me. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law had suddenly appeared at my parents' house and forced their way in without permission. My father was out handling some personal matters, which is why my mother called me in a panic. I quickly got ready and headed to my parents' house. When I arrived, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were sitting on the living room sofa, waiting for me. I had no idea why they had shown up. "What are you both doing here at my parents' house all of a sudden?" I asked. And then, my ex-husband said something that completely shocked me. "I want you to give me back the money that you owe me." "What? I never borrowed any money from you. I paid $15,000 for the wedding, didn't I? You were the one who wanted the wedding, so I lent you that money. Since you divorced me, this is all fraud. I could sue you for marriage fraud, but all I want is for you to return the $15,000 as a settlement." His demand was outrageous. My ex-mother-in-law chimed in, saying I should pay him as soon as possible. After the divorce, I knew John had gone back to working at the cafe, but I also knew the pay there wasn't much. He must have been struggling financially, which was probably why he was making such ridiculous requests. Let me remind you, we both played equal roles in the wedding, and after that, I paid more than you for our living expenses. If you calculate it all, $15,000 is nothing compared to what I spent, so don't harass me with your impossible demands. I tried to get them to leave, but they refused to leave easily. Then, my father came home. Apparently, he had received a call from my mother and rushed back. "What are you doing here?" he asked, glaring at them. My ex-husband explained the same thing to my father, looking terrified at my father's angry tone. My father listened in silence, clearly shocked and furious at John's demands. "You're the one who had an affair. If you're going to make these ridiculous demands, get the hell out of here." With that, my father tried to kick them out, but my ex-husband fell to his knees. "Please, Aaron, lend me the money. Stacy's husband is demanding alimony from me too, and I really can't pay. Please, $15,000, no, $10,000 would help." It was insane. He was begging for money at a time like this. I coldly replied, "No, I can't do that. Now go home." But then, my ex-mother-in-law said, "You're also responsible for what happened," and insisted that I was obligated to lend him the money. The situation was getting out of hand, so my father said, "Fine, I'll get the money, wait here," and went to another room. "Hey, Dad, what do you mean?" I rushed after him, and my father grinned. "I have plenty of money. Since we have it, why don't we give it to them?" I was convinced when I saw my father take the money out of the closet. Well, this should be interesting, I thought. My father put the money in an envelope and handed it to John. After they finally got what they wanted, my ex-husband and his mother left, looking pleased. As soon as they left, I locked the door and called the police. The two of them must have checked the envelope after leaving, because they came back quickly, banging on our door. "Hey, what's going on here? This is Monopoly money. I don't want this fake cash," my ex-husband yelled angrily at the door. I laughed and said, "Since we have so much money, I thought I'd share some with you." Then my ex-husband shouted, "You've got to be kidding," and started banging harder on the door. It sounded like they were kicking the door with their feet, but they didn't realize this was going to cause big trouble for them. John and his mom were still kicking the door when the police showed up and arrested them. Neighbors gathered around, and many of them saw John and his mom get arrested. In the end, John didn't get any money, but he had to pay a fine for his arrest and the damage to our door. Also, one of the people who saw the arrest was a regular customer at the cafe where John worked. The news spread fast, and he was fired right away. Now, John can't find a job and has moved back to his parents' house. His parents are now paying alimony and child support for him. I also got a restraining order against my ex-in-laws for my family. Now, if anything happens, we can call the police, and they'll come right away. I'm happier than ever with Natalie now. I'll keep working hard and watching my daughter grow up. Thanks for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.
The message from my father arrived while I was in the middle of coaching 20 teenagers through their first competitive gaming tournament. My phone buzzed with his text. Family announcement this weekend. Your presence is required. My name is Avery, and that single message managed to derail my entire week. I hadn't been home in months. Not since the last disastrous family dinner where my stepmother Karen had spent the entire evening showcasing my half-sister Claire's latest achievements while pointedly ignoring mine. Miss Collins, one of my students, waved frantically from their gaming station. The server's acting weird again. I pocketed my phone, pushing aside the knot forming in my stomach. Coming, Tommy. And remember, in tournament play, we troubleshoot first, panic second. The rest of the day passed in a blur of technical issues and coaching sessions. By closing time, my phone had 3 missed calls from my father and another text. This is important, Avery. Don't skip out like last time. That night, I sat cross-legged on my couch, staring at my phone while my fiancé Ethan cooked dinner in our small kitchen. You're doing that thing again, he said, stirring something that smelled amazing. The one where you overthink everything until your brain explodes. I don't overthink, I muttered, then caught his knowing look. Okay, fine. But Dad never demands family meetings. Something's up. Maybe Claire finally learned how to tie her shoes without help, Ethan joked, then sobered when I didn't laugh. Sorry. Low blow. I sighed, remembering the last time I'd seen my younger half-sister. Claire had spent the entire evening making subtle digs about my little gaming club, and how it must be so fulfilling to play with other people's children since you can't have any of your own. That particular barb still stung. I should go, I said finally. If only to stop Dad from sending the National Guard after me. The drive to my childhood home that weekend felt longer than usual. Each mile marker brought back memories of growing up there after my mom died, of my grandmother Helen raising me while Dad was deployed, Claire's arrival when I was 12, and her mother Karen's immediate campaign to remake our family in her image. I pulled into the circular driveway, noting Claire's shiny new Mercedes parked in my usual spot. Of course. Dad opened the door before I could knock. You're late. Hello to you too, I said, accepting his awkward hug. He smelled the same as always, Old Spice and coffee. Some things never changed. The living room was exactly as I remembered, down to the family photos on the wall. I noticed with a twinge that Grandmother Helen's portrait had been moved to a less prominent spot. Claire sat in Helen's old armchair like she owned it, Karen perched on the armrest beside her. They both wore matching expressions of barely concealed satisfaction that made my skin crawl. Now that we're all here, Dad cleared his throat, Claire has some news. My sister's hand drifted to her stomach in a gesture that made my heart sink before she even opened her mouth. I'm pregnant, Claire announced, her smile sharp as a knife. You're going to be an aunt, Avery. Isn't that wonderful? Now you'll finally get to experience what it's like to have a baby in the family, even if it's not quite the same as having your own. The room went silent. I felt the familiar sting of tears threatening to form but forced them back. Claire's words hung in the air like poison, perfectly crafted to hit where it hurt most. Dad shifted uncomfortably. We thought you should hear it in person. Family first, right? I managed a tight smile, even as my fingers curled into fists at my sides. Congratulations, I said, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. If you'll excuse me, I need some air. As I walked out onto the porch, I heard Karen's voice drift through the open window. She's always been dramatic. Don't let her ruin your moment, sweetheart. I leaned against the railing, letting the cool evening air clear my head. Something in me had shifted, hardened. This wasn't just about the baby announcement. This was about years of subtle cruelty, of calculated jabs and manufactured competitions. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. You okay? I wasn't. But I would be. 'Cause for the first time in my life, I was done playing nice. I didn't expect Dad to follow me onto the porch, but there he was, closing the screen door behind him with that familiar, careful quietness, the same way he used to check on me after Mom died. Your grandmother used to stand right there, he said, gesturing to where I was leaning against the railing, watching storms roll in. I remember. I didn't add that I also remembered how Helen was the only one who stood up to Karen when she tried to redecorate the entire house, claiming the porch furniture was too country. The wicker chairs were still here, a small victory in a war of attrition. Karen's organizing a baby shower next month, Dad said, his voice carefully neutral. She wants to do it here. Of course she did. The same house where Helen had raised me, where I'd spent countless hours reading in the window seat that Karen had later converted into a display case for Claire's cheerleading trophies. You don't have to come, he added quickly. Don't I? I turned to face him. Won't it look bad if the aunt doesn't show up? Won't Karen have something to say about that? He flinched. Avery. The screen door creaked open and Claire waddled out, one hand on her barely visible bump. Daddy, Mom wants to know if you'll grab more wine from the cellar. The good stuff, not the cheap bottles Avery brought last time. I hadn't brought any wine last time. Claire knew that. Sure, princess. Dad disappeared inside, leaving us alone. Claire's sweet smile dropped the instant he was gone. You know, you could at least pretend to be happy for me. I am happy for you, I lied. Thrilled, even. Really? Because you stormed out pretty quickly after my announcement. I needed air. You needed attention, she corrected, moving closer. Just like always. Poor infertile Avery can't stand someone else being the center of attention for once. My nails dug into my palms. Is that what you think this is about? I think it's about what everything's always been about with you. Jealousy. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You're jealous that I can have what you can't. That I'm giving Dad his first grandchild. That Mom loves me more than. Karen isn't my mother, I cut in. And Helen left me the house. Claire's face went white. What? I hadn't meant to say it. The paperwork had arrived last week, Helen's final gift, held in trust until my 28th birthday. I'd been waiting for the right time to tell everyone, but Claire's smug superiority had cracked something in me. The house is mine, I said, the words tasting like victory. Grandmother Helen left it to me in her will. I get full ownership next month. Claire's hands trembled. You're lying. Ask Dad. He's known for years. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. So, maybe you should rethink having your baby shower here. Wouldn't want to impose. The screen door slammed open. Karen stood there, her face twisted with rage. I heard everything, she hissed. How dare you? How dare I what? Inherit my grandmother's house? Claire is pregnant. This is her moment, and you're trying to ruin it with your spiteful little power play. Karen. Dad appeared behind her, holding a wine bottle. What's going on? Your daughter is trying to kick us out of our home. That's not what I said, I protested, but Claire was already crying, her hands protectively covering her stomach. The stress isn't good for the baby, she sobbed. She's trying to hurt my baby. Dad looked between us, lost. Avery, maybe we should discuss this another time. Of course, I said quietly. Take care of your pregnant daughter. It's what you do best. I walked to my car, ignoring Karen's continued accusations and Dad's weak attempts to call me back. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Claire in my rearview mirror. She wasn't crying anymore. Instead, she was watching me leave with the same calculating expression she'd worn when she'd announced her pregnancy. This wasn't over. We both knew it. But for the first time, I had something she wanted. And I intended to use it. The message that broke me came from Sarah, my oldest student's mother, 3 days after the family dinner. She wanted to discuss some concerns about my mentorship program. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, expecting questions about tournament schedules or equipment fees. I was wrong. I heard some disturbing things, Sarah said, stirring her untouched latte. About your situation. My stomach dropped. My situation? Your sister Claire reached out to several parents. She mentioned your condition might affect your ability to relate to children properly. Sarah wouldn't meet my eyes. She suggested we might want to consider other programs. The coffee shop's ambient chatter faded to white noise. Claire hadn't just attacked me personally, she'd gone after my business, my students, everything I'd built. My infertility has nothing to do with my ability to teach, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Tommy's tournament rankings have improved by 30% since he started with us. I know, but what? Claire's pregnant, so suddenly she's an expert on children? Sarah shifted uncomfortably. She mentioned she's starting her own youth program. Something more traditional, less competitive. Of course she was. Claire had never shown any interest in gaming or coaching before, but now that she knew it mattered to me, I stood up, nearly knocking over my chair. Excuse me. I need to make a call. Sighed, I pressed my forehead against the cool brick wall and dialed Claire's number. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting. Hello, sister dear. How are you coping with the house news? Cut the act, I snapped. I know what you're doing. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm just looking out for children's best interests. After all, what would our grandmother think about you using her house to run a business teaching kids to waste their lives playing games? Don't you dare bring Helen into this. Why not? She's the reason you think you're better than everyone else. Perfect Avery, Helen's favorite, too good for family now that she has her precious inheritance. Is that what this is about? You're sabotaging my business because you're jealous of a house? Claire's laugh was bitter. I'm protecting vulnerable children from someone who can't possibly understand what it means to be a mother. You should thank me, really. Now you won't have to pretend anymore. I ended the call before I could say something I'd regret. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from Claire. By the way, I've already got 5 of your students' parents interested in my new program. Funny how quickly they change their minds when they learn the truth about you. I slumped against the wall, fighting back tears. Years of work, of building trust with these families, and Claire was destroying it all with a few well-placed words. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan. Hey, you okay? Your afternoon class is starting soon. Class? I'd almost forgotten. I had 6 teenagers waiting to learn advanced strategy techniques, kids who trusted me, who'd improved under my guidance despite my condition. I straightened up, wiping my eyes. Claire wanted to play dirty? Fine. But she'd forgotten something important. I'd learned strategy from the best. And Helen hadn't just left me a house. She'd left me her entire gaming collection, including journals full of tournament notes dating back decades. I texted Ethan back. I'm good. Actually, I have an idea. Remember that charity tournament we talked about? The one you said was too ambitious? Things change. How fast can you set up a live stream event? And can you get your developer friends involved? Give me 48 hours. What are you planning? I smiled, thinking of Claire's smug face when she thought she'd won. Teaching my sister a lesson about games. And family. And why you should never underestimate someone just because they can't have children. As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in days. Claire thought she could use my infertility against me. She was about to learn that some battles aren't won by having the right biology, they're won by having the right strategy. And I'd been strategizing my whole life. I found the adoption pamphlets while cleaning up after dinner. Ethan had hidden them under a stack of gaming magazines, but they spilled across the kitchen counter when I moved them, glossy pages full of smiling families and promises of new beginnings. I was going to bring it up differently, Ethan said from the doorway, making me jump. Maybe over wine. Or after the charity tournament. My fingers traced the edge of a pamphlet. How long have you been thinking about this? Since before Claire's announcement. He moved closer, careful, like I might bolt. I know the timing seems reactive, but what? You thought now would be perfect? While my sister is actively trying to destroy everything I've built because she thinks I'm unfit to be around children? That's exactly why we should consider it. Ethan picked up one of the pamphlets. To prove her wrong. To show everyone that family isn't about biology or pregnancy announcements. It's about love and choice. My phone buzzed. Another parent withdrawing from the program. Third one this week. Claire would use it against us, I said quietly. She'd say we're only doing it to compete with her pregnancy. To steal her spotlight. Since when do you care what Claire thinks? Since she started poisoning my entire life. The words burst out louder than intended. She's turning everyone against me, Ethan. Parents, Dad, even my own students are starting to doubt me. And now you want to add adoption scrutiny to that mix? I want to build a future with you, he said. One that isn't defined by what Claire does or doesn't do. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. Claire's having complications. Doctor ordered bed rest. She's staying at the house. Thought you should know. Of course she was staying at the house. My house. The one Helen left to me. She's moving in, I said, showing Ethan the message. She's actually moving into the house before I can even claim it. Can she do that? Dad's still technically the executor until my birthday next month. He can let anyone stay there he wants. I laughed, the sound hollow. Want to bet she'll have redecorated my old room for the nursery before I get the keys? Ethan was quiet for a moment then. Maybe we should move. What? After the tournament. After you get the house. We could sell it, move somewhere Claire can't reach us. Start fresh, maybe look into adoption agencies in another state. Run away, you mean? I stared at the pamphlets, at all those perfect families smiling up at me. Let Claire win. Let her have an empty victory while we build something real. Another text from Dad. Karen's organizing a baby shower here next week. Claire really wants you there. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I picked up one of the adoption pamphlets, really looking at it this time. A young couple played with their adopted daughter, their faces bright with genuine joy. No forced smiles, no calculated performances. Just family. Helen always said the house was meant to be a home, I said slowly. Not a weapon. What are you thinking? I reached for my laptop. I'm thinking it's time to change the game. Claire wants to play happy families? Fine. But first, we're going to show everyone what real family support looks like. I pulled up the charity tournament plans we'd been working on. What if we made it bigger? Not just gaming, a full community event. Supporting local adoption agencies, foster care programs. Using Claire's tactics against her? No. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Using my grandmother's strategy. She always said the best way to win isn't to tear others down, it's to build something so beautiful they can't ignore it. Ethan grinned. I love it when you get that look. What's the first move? I picked up my phone, ignoring Dad's text to compose a different message. This one to all my remaining students' parents. Invitation to a special announcement. Time to show you what our program is really about. Claire wanted war? I'd give her something better, hope. And maybe, just maybe, I'd find some for myself along the way. The lawyer's office felt too small for the 5 of us. Dad sat between Claire and me, while Karen hovered protectively behind Claire's chair. The inheritance paperwork lay unopened on Mr. Peterson's desk, but that wasn't why we were here. Let me understand this correctly, Mr. Peterson said, adjusting his glasses. Miss Collins, you're requesting an early transfer of property ownership due to unauthorized renovations? I placed my phone on his desk, playing the video Tommy's mom had sent me yesterday. The footage showed Karen directing workers at the house, supervising as they carried Helen's antique furniture out to a waiting truck. "They're gutting my grandmother's home," I said. "Without permission." "We're preparing the nursery," Karen cut in. Richard approved it. Dad shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't realize they were removing Helen's things." "Of course you didn't." The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. "You never notice anything when it comes to Claire." Claire's hand moved protectively over her bump. "The doctor said stress isn't good for the baby. And that old furniture was full of dust and that furniture was my inheritance." My voice cracked. Everything in that house meant something. Every piece had a story. "Stories don't matter to a baby," Claire said softly, her eyes gleaming with false concern. "But I understand why you're so attached. It must be hard knowing you'll never have a real family to pass these things down to." The room went silent. Even Karen looked shocked at Claire's cruelty. "Miss Collins," Mr. Peterson cleared his throat, "legally speaking, until your 28th birthday next month, your father retains executor rights. However, given the circumstances..." My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan. "Local news picked up the charity tournament story. They want to interview you about combining gaming with adoption awareness." Something clicked in my mind. "I'd like to make a proposal," I said, sitting straighter. "Dad, you want peace in the family. Claire, you want the nursery. Fine. Keep the house for now." Claire's triumphant smile lasted exactly 3 seconds. "But I'm hosting my charity tournament there next week. A full media event highlighting local adoption services and foster care programs. After all," I met Claire's eyes, "it's still legally Dad's house and he always taught us about giving back to the community. Right, Dad?" Dad's military posture returned, the way it always did when he was cornered. "That seems reasonable." "You can't be serious," Karen sputtered. "Claire needs rest, not some noisy gaming circus." "The event will be in the backyard," I said. "Claire can rest upstairs. Unless there's some reason you don't want the community seeing inside the house." Claire's face went pale. She knew exactly what I was implying. If they refused, people would question why. Especially after Claire had spent weeks spreading rumors about my fitness to work with children. "I think it's a wonderful idea," Mr. Peterson said, clearly enjoying the drama. "Very much in keeping with Helen's philanthropic spirit." "Fine," Claire snapped. "Have your little event. But don't think this changes anything. That house will never be yours in the way that really matters. You'll never fill it with family the way I will." I stood up, gathering my things. "You know what, Claire? You're right. I won't fill it with family, because family isn't about filling spaces. It's about building connections. Something Grandmother Helen tried to teach us, though clearly only one of us was listening." As I reached the door, Dad called out, "Avery, wait!" "The event team will be there Monday to set up," I said without turning around. "Try not to remove any more of Helen's memories before then." Outside, my hand shook as I texted Ethan, "It's done. Plan B is go." His reply was immediate. "You sure about this?" "Once we start." I looked back at the lawyer's office, where Claire was already playing the victim for Dad again. She thought she'd won by taking Helen's house. She had no idea that some victories came disguised as losses. "I'm sure," I typed. Time to show everyone what real family looks like. And this time I had more than just games up my sleeve. I had truth. The charity tournament was supposed to be my moment of triumph. Instead, I stood frozen in Helen's backyard, now barely recognizable under Karen's garden party decorations, watching Claire steal even this from me. "As someone who truly understands the importance of nurturing children," Claire was saying to the local news reporter, one hand resting on her visible bump, "I'm excited to announce my own youth mentorship program, one that focuses on traditional values and real family connections." The camera panned to capture the crowd's approving nods. Several of my former students' parents stood among them, including Sarah, who couldn't quite meet my eyes. Of course, Claire continued, her voice dripping with false concern. We'll welcome all children, even those from alternative family structures. After all, everyone deserves guidance from someone who understands traditional family values. Ethan's hand found mine, squeezing tight. We can still shut this down. It's your event, your grandmother's property. Actually, Karen stepped forward, brandishing a paper. We have something to share about that. She smiled at the reporter. Richard, dear, would you like to make the announcement? Dad emerged from the crowd, looking uncomfortable but determined. Given Claire's condition and her new community program, we've decided to transfer ownership of the house to her permanently. The paperwork was filed this morning. The world tilted sideways. You can't, I whispered, but the microphones picked it up. The inheritance was contingent on several factors, Karen cut in smoothly, including the property's continued use for family purposes. Richard and I agree that Claire's program better serves that intention. Claire's triumphant smile felt like a knife. We're keeping Helen's legacy alive the way she would have wanted, by nurturing future generations. Not through video games. I spotted Helen's chest set through the window, still sitting in its familiar spot. The one thing they hadn't packed away yet. My vision blurred. You want to talk about Helen's legacy? My voice shook. Let's talk about what she really wanted. Let's talk about the letter she left. Commotion near the house cut me off. Tommy, my youngest student, had slipped inside and was now running back out, Helen's chest set clutched in his arms. Miss Collins! I saved it before they could. He tripped. The antique chess set flew from his hands in slow motion. Pieces scattered across the patio like broken dreams. The hand-carved board splitting with a crack that felt like Helen's heart breaking all over again. This is exactly why children need proper supervision, Claire announced to the crowd. From people who understand. Shut up. The words came out raw. Just shut up, Claire. You didn't even know her. You spent every holiday at your mom's parents' house. You never sat with Helen, never learned her stories, never. But I'm giving her what she always wanted, Claire interrupted. A real family in her home. Children. A future. What can you offer except broken games and empty rooms? Cameras were still rolling. My students watched with wide eyes. Everything I'd built, everything I'd planned, lay shattered like the chess pieces at my feet. I think we're done here, Karen announced, moving to usher the reporters toward Claire. We'll have a proper press release about the new program tomorrow. Dad stepped toward me, conflict written across his face. Avery, don't. I backed away, nearly tripping over the chess pieces. Just don't. I turned and ran, ignoring Ethan's calls, ignoring the murmurs from the crowd. Behind me, I heard Claire's voice rise again, as I was saying about traditional family values. My car wouldn't start. Of course it wouldn't. I slammed my hands against the steering wheel, finally letting the tears fall. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. I opened it, expecting more disaster. Instead, I found a photo, Helen's desk drawer, partially open, revealing a sealed envelope with my name on it. Below the photo was a message. Found this while they were packing up. Thought you should know. The moving guy. Through my tears, I smiled. Maybe Helen had one last move to play after all. Breaking into my own inheritance wasn't exactly how I'd planned to spend the evening, but here I was, picking the lock to Helen's study while Ethan kept watch. The moving truck wouldn't arrive until morning. This was my last chance. Someone's coming, Ethan whispered. I finally felt the lock click. 2 minutes. That's all I need. Claire's voice drifted up the stairs. I just need to grab something from the study. The decorator wants to see. The door opened before I could hide. Claire stood there, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the doorframe. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I knew it, she said, her voice rising. Mom. Dad. Avery's trying to steal. The letter. I held up my phone, showing her the photo. That's all I want. The one in Helen's desk. There is no letter. But her eyes darted to the drawer. Karen's footsteps thundered up the stairs. I lunged for the desk, yanking the drawer open as Claire screamed, "She's attacking me!" The envelope was there, just as the photo showed. I grabbed it just as Karen burst in, Dad right behind her. She pushed me. Claire stumbled backward dramatically, but her heel caught the antique rug. This time, her fall wasn't staged. She went down hard, crying out in genuine pain. Claire! Karen rushed to her side while Dad blocked the doorway, his face a storm of confusion and anger. I never touched her, I said, backing away. Check the security cameras. Helen had them installed everywhere, remember? To protect her antiques. Claire's face went white. The cameras are working perfectly, Ethan cut in, holding up his phone. I'm a developer, remember? Accessing their feed was pretty easy, especially since Avery still had Helen's passwords. Show me, Dad demanded. Ethan pulled up the footage. We watched in silence as it showed me entering the study, Claire following, and her deliberate stumble, followed by the real fall that no one had caused. You've been recording us? Karen's voice shook with rage. Invading our privacy? No, I said, opening Helen's letter. I've been protecting her legacy. The way she taught me. The letter was short but devastating. Helen had known about Claire and Karen's manipulations. She'd left the house to me with specific conditions, including one that said if anyone tried to contest the inheritance through legal means, everything would be donated to a children's charity instead. You can't prove when that was written, Karen snapped. We'll challenge it. Check the metadata on the security footage, Ethan said quietly. Helen recorded herself writing and sealing this letter 3 days before she died. She knew exactly what would happen. Claire struggled to sit up, her face twisted with pain and fury. This doesn't change anything. I'm still giving Dad what you never could, a real family, a grandchild, a future. Claire, Dad's voice cracked. Stop. We all turned to him. He looked older suddenly, defeated. I watched the footage, he said. All of it. The way you've been treating your sister, the things you've said about her students, her business. He shook his head. Helen was right. I've been blind. Richard, Karen started, but he held up his hand. The house stays with Avery, as Helen wanted. And Claire. He finally met my eyes. You owe your sister an apology. Claire's laugh was bitter. For what? For wanting what's rightfully mine? For trying to build something real instead of playing games? That's exactly what Helen was afraid of, I said, reading from the letter. Family isn't about ownership or control. It's about nurturing growth, supporting dreams, and understanding that love multiplies. It doesn't divide. I folded the letter carefully. Keep the furniture you moved. Keep the renovations. But the house is mine. And I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. What's that? Claire spat. I smiled, thinking of the adoption pamphlets waiting at home. I'm going to fill it with family. Just not the kind you understand. As I walked out, I heard Dad following. Maybe some bridges weren't completely burned after all. But first, I had a real legacy to build. 6 months later, I stood in Helen's study, my study now, watching the sunset paint the walls gold. The room still held her presence, though I'd made some changes. Her chess set, carefully restored, sat beside my gaming equipment. Old and new, just like she would have wanted. The sound of children laughing drifted up from the backyard. My advanced gaming class was having their graduation ceremony, complete with proud parents and a local news crew. This time, the coverage was about our program's success, not family drama. Miss Collins. Tommy poked his head in. They're ready for the presentation. Thanks, buddy. I'll be right down. He hesitated. Is it true? About you and Mr. Brooks adopting? News travels fast, I smiled. We're just starting the process. It's going to take time. Cool. He grinned. You're already pretty good at the mom stuff anyway. As he bounded away, I caught my reflection in Helen's old mirror. I looked different somehow, stronger maybe. More like her than ever. Dad was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. We'd been rebuilding slowly, coffee dates and careful conversations. Today was the first time he'd visited the house since everything happened. Karen left, he said quietly, after Claire's baby shower last week. Said she couldn't handle the shame of. He trailed off. The video going public? The security footage had leaked somehow, not through Ethan or me, showing Claire's manipulations and lies. Her traditional values program had collapsed overnight. Dad nodded. Claire's staying with her aunt in Colorado. Says she needs space to find herself before the baby comes. He met my eyes. She asked about you. Did she? Wanted to know if you'd really turn the house into some kind of gaming orphanage, her words. I laughed. Just a regular gaming academy. Though we do offer scholarships now, thanks to Helen's foundation. Through the window, I could see Ethan setting up the presentation screen, my students helping him arrange chairs. Sarah, who'd returned with a heartfelt apology after the truth came out, was organizing refreshments. Helen would be proud, Dad said. Not just of this, but of how you handled everything. You didn't let anger win. No, I agreed. I let love win. The way she taught me. We walked outside together. The evening air was warm, carrying the scent of Helen's roses, the one part of the garden I hadn't changed. As my students gathered for the ceremony, I noticed a familiar figure standing at the gate. Claire. She looked smaller somehow, less certain. When our eyes met, she didn't smile or wave. She just watched, one hand resting on her bump, as I awarded certificates and praised each student's achievements. As I announced our new adoption support initiative, partnering with local agencies to help families navigate the system. When the ceremony ended, I expected her to leave. Instead, she walked to Helen's rose garden, touching a bloom gently. She taught me about these once, Claire said as I approached. I pretended not to care, but I remembered everything she said. Why are you here? I don't know. She looked lost. Maybe to see what real legacy looks like. We stood in silence, the roses swaying between us like memories. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said finally. But my baby. Your niece. I don't want her growing up thinking family is about winning and losing. It's not, I said. It's about growing. Sometimes together, sometimes apart. She nodded once, then turned to leave. The roses look good, she said softly. You take care of them like she did. I watched her go, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. We were both Helen's roses, grown in different gardens. Later, as Ethan and I cleaned up, he asked, You okay? I looked around at my home, at the gaming equipment and chess sets, at the adoption paperwork on my desk, at Helen's roses blooming in the twilight, at all the different ways love could grow. Yeah, I said. I'm exactly where I need to be. Family, I'd learned, wasn't about blood or birthright. It was about choosing to nurture what matters, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Just like Helen always said.
The text glowed mockingly in the darkness of our bedroom. 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared again, a digital heartbeat of betrayal. I hadn't meant to look at Mark's phone. It had buzzed twice while he was in the shower, and I'd reached for it automatically, thinking it might be the fertility clinic with our latest results. Instead, I found myself staring at Lauren's name. Lauren, my best friend since college. Lauren, who'd held my hand through 3 failed IVF treatments. Lauren, who was now sending my husband messages at 11:43 p.m. I miss you already. Today was perfect. My fingers hovered over the screen. The bathroom door creaked open, steam billowing out. I kept my eyes fixed on the phone, my voice steady. How long? Sarah? Mark's footsteps halted. What are you? How long? The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Mark's breathing grew heavier. 6 months, he finally said. I laughed. The sound was foreign, almost hysterical. 6 months. While I'd been injecting hormones and crying over negative pregnancy tests, you've been fucking my best friend. It's not like that. His voice cracked. You've been so focused on having a baby, you barely see me anymore. Everything is about schedules and temperatures and... Don't you dare. I stood up, his phone still clutched in my hand. Don't you dare make this my fault. Mom's right, you know. A woman your age should have had children by now. Lauren. She understands what I need. The phone hit the wall with a satisfying crack. Mark flinched, but I felt nothing. No tears, no rage, just a cold, crystalline clarity. Your mother. Another laugh bubbled up. Of course. Helen must be thrilled. Her barren daughter-in-law finally getting what she deserves. Sarah, please. Does Evan know? The question surprised even me. Mark's brother had always been kind, always defended me against Helen's subtle jabs. Mark's silence was answer enough. Get out. My voice was steel. Pack a bag and get out. This is my house too. You can't just. Actually, I can. The house is in my name. Remember? You insisted on it because of the tax benefits from my old executive position. The position I gave up because you wanted me to focus on starting a family. He stood there, water still dripping from his hair, looking lost and pathetic in his towel. For a moment, I saw him as Lauren must have, weak, easily manipulated, desperate for validation. Fine. He grabbed some clothes, stuffing them haphazardly into a gym bag. But this isn't over. We need to talk about this properly. Oh, we will. I watched him dress quickly, fumbling with his buttons. Send Lauren my love. Tell her I'll be seeing her very soon. He paused at the doorway, one hand on the frame. I never meant to hurt you. Funny thing about intentions, Mark. They don't mean shit when you're sleeping with your wife's best friend. The front door slammed. I stood in the darkness, listening to his car start up and pull away. My phone lit up, Nina calling. She always had a sixth sense about these things. I let it ring. There would be time for comfort later. Right now, I needed to think. To plan. Lauren had always been so proud of her perfectly curated life, her carefully maintained image. It would be a shame if something happened to destroy all that. I picked up Mark's shattered phone from the floor. The screen was cracked, but I could still make out Lauren's last message, sweet dreams, baby. Tomorrow's going to be amazing. No, Lauren. Tomorrow was going to be something else entirely. Helen Mitchell's perfectly manicured nails drummed against my kitchen counter. 3 sharp taps, a pause, then 3 more. Like Chinese water torture in designer jewelry. Mark tells me you're being unreasonable about all this, she said, examining a spot on her blazer. Really, Sarah, at your age, you can't afford to throw away a marriage over one indiscretion. I continued chopping vegetables for a salad I had no intention of eating. The knife made a satisfying thunk against the cutting board. Did he tell you who he was sleeping with? Well, no, but... Lauren. The tomato split perfectly in half under my blade. Your tennis partner. The one you've been pushing him toward since our second failed IVF. The drumming stopped. In the silence, I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, recalculating her approach. Lauren is a lovely girl, she finally said. From a good family. And she's still young enough to. The knife clattered onto the counter. Get out. I beg your pardon. Get out of my house before I do something we'll both regret. She stood, smoothing her skirt with practiced precision. You know, when Mark first brought you home, I told him you weren't suited for our family. Too ambitious. Too focused on your career. A proper wife understands her priorities. Like Lauren does? Exactly like Lauren does. She reached for her purse, then paused. The fertility treatments clearly aren't working, dear. Perhaps it's time to accept that some women aren't meant to be mothers. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Helen's lips curved into a smug smile, probably expecting Mark. Instead, Evan's voice called out from the entryway. Sarah? You home? Helen's smile vanished. Evan doesn't need to be involved in this. Too late. I moved past her to open the kitchen door. We're in here. Evan filled the doorframe, his usual easy smile replaced with concern. His eyes darted between Helen and me, taking in the tension. Mother, he said coolly. I didn't expect to find you here. I was just leaving. Helen clutched her purse like a shield. Sarah and I were having a civilized discussion about her marriage. Really? Evan's eyebrow rose. Because I just ran into Mark at Lauren's place. Seemed pretty uncivilized to me. The color drained from Helen's face. You went to Lauren's? Someone had to tell her husband. My head snapped up. Lauren's married? 3 years now. Poor guy works overseas most of the year. Engineering contracts or something. Evan's voice was casual, but his eyes were hard. Funny how that never came up in all those tennis matches, right, Mom? Helen's composure cracked. She hurried past Evan without another word, her heels clicking rapidly across the floor. The front door slammed behind her. You knew, I said when we were alone. About Mark and Lauren. Evan sighed, running a hand through his hair. Found out last week. Been trying to figure out how to tell you. Why didn't you tell Mark's precious mother instead? Because she already knew. Has known for months. He pulled out his phone, showing me a series of texts. She's been covering for them. Arranging their meetings under the guise of charity events, tennis lessons. The pieces clicked into place. All those times Helen had insisted I was too tired, too stressed to attend her social functions. The knowing looks between her and Lauren at family dinners. She wanted me gone, I whispered. All this time, she was orchestrating my replacement. Sarah. No, this is perfect. I felt that cold clarity returning, sharper now. Helen's always been so concerned about the family's reputation. I wonder how the country club would react to a scandal involving their beloved social chair. What are you planning? I smiled, thinking of Helen's carefully cultivated image, of Lauren's secret marriage, of Mark's desperate need for approval. Nothing they haven't earned. Evan studied me for a long moment. Just be careful. Revenge has a way of burning everyone involved. Don't worry. I picked up the knife again, resuming my methodical chopping. I'm very good at controlling the temperature of things. You should know that by now. The tomato juice spread across the cutting board like blood, and I felt something dark and satisfying unfurl in my chest. Helen wanted a proper wife? I'd show her exactly what a career woman could do when properly motivated. The country club's annual charity gala buzzed with artificial warmth and whispered judgments. I watched Lauren work the room, her red dress catching every eye, her laugh carrying across the space like wind chimes. Mark trailed behind her like a lost puppy, nodding at whatever Helen was saying to their little group. You sure you want to do this? Nina asked, adjusting her camera. As the event's official photographer, she had the perfect cover for capturing everything that was about to unfold. Just be ready. I smoothed my black dress, funeral appropriate, I'd thought when buying it. Lauren's husband should be arriving any minute. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Evan. James Adams just cleared security. 5 minutes. I'd found Lauren's husband easily enough. A few calls to old contacts from my executive days, some carefully worded emails about urgent business matters. James Adams had been more than happy to fly back early from his contract in Dubai when I mentioned concerns about his wife's handling of their joint accounts. Sarah. Lauren's voice cut through my thoughts. She stood before me, champagne in hand, wearing the same fake smile she'd used when consoling me after my miscarriage. I didn't expect to see you here. Wouldn't miss it. I sipped my water. Helen was very insistent about maintaining appearances. Yes, well. Her eyes darted to where Mark stood. Sometimes appearances are all we have. How's the marriage, Lauren? Yours, I mean. Not mine. The champagne glass trembled slightly. I don't know what you're. Sarah Mitchell? A deep voice interrupted. James Adams stood behind Lauren, his face tight with confusion. I got your messages about the accounts. What's going on? Lauren went rigid. James? You're supposed to be in Dubai until. Until what, Lauren? I asked sweetly. Until the divorce papers were filed? Or until you'd finished transferring his family's inheritance into your private account? The color drained from Lauren's face. Across the room, I saw Helen grab Mark's arm, both of them frozen in horror. What is she talking about? James demanded. Nothing. She's just bitter because. Because you're sleeping with my husband? I raised my voice just enough to draw attention. Or because you and Helen orchestrated this whole thing while stealing from your own husband? The surrounding conversations died. Nina's camera clicked softly, capturing every moment. That's enough. Mark stepped forward, Helen clutching his sleeve. Sarah, you're making a scene. Oh, I haven't even started. I pulled out my phone, showing James the banking records I'd obtained. Your wife has been very busy while you've been away. Setting up offshore accounts, making large transfers. Helen helped her find quite a creative accountant. James grabbed the phone, his face darkening as he scrolled. Lauren's perfect mask cracked. It's not what you think, she pleaded. I can explain everything. Explain what? I pressed. How you and Helen planned this for months. How you used my infertility treatments as cover for your meetings. Or should we discuss the property you bought in your maiden name? The room had gone completely silent. Helen's social circle watched with barely concealed glee as their queen bee's carefully constructed world began to crumble. You vindictive bitch, Lauren hissed. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I do. See, while you were playing happy families with my husband, I was calling in favors from my old corporate days. Did you know tax fraud investigations can freeze all your assets? Even the hidden ones? James's phone started ringing. Lauren lunged for it, but he stepped back, his face cold. That'll be my lawyer. Excuse me. As he walked away, Lauren's composure shattered. You've ruined everything. No, Lauren. You did that yourself. I moved closer, keeping my voice low. You took everything from me, my marriage, my best friend, my dignity. Did you really think I wouldn't return the favor? Sarah, please. Mark stepped forward. This isn't you. You're right. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. The old Sarah would have suffered in silence, tried to fix things, blamed herself. But you all taught me something valuable about family and loyalty. Nina's camera captured the moment perfectly, Lauren's mascara-streaked face, Helen's horrified expression. Mark's dawning realization that he'd created this version of me. Sometimes, I said, raising my water glass in a mock toast. The only way to deal with toxic family is to burn it all down and walk away from the ashes. The fire alarm chose that moment to shriek to life, sprinklers raining down on designer dresses and perfectly coiffed hair. Right on schedule, thanks to Evan's timing. I walked out dry, protected by the awning, leaving chaos in my wake. Behind me, I heard Helen's outraged scream as her charity gala dissolved into expensive puddles. Sometimes revenge is best served wet. The manila envelope sat unopened on my kitchen counter for 3 days. Nina's photos from the gala were already making waves. Lauren's tearful confrontation with James splashed across social media. Helen's reputation in tatters. But this envelope promised something darker. My phone buzzed. "Evan, have you looked at them yet?" I texted back, "Not ready." The doorbell rang. I knew who it was before opening the door. Mark stood there, looking haunted, his wedding ring conspicuously absent. "You shouldn't be here," I said. "Lauren's pregnant." The words hit like a physical blow. I gripped the doorframe, steadying myself. "Congratulations. I'm sure Helen's thrilled." "It's not mine." His voice cracked. "She's 3 months along. James's baby. She knew before. Before us." I laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. "So she trapped you for nothing." "Sarah, please. I need." "What you need doesn't matter anymore." I grabbed the envelope from the counter. "But since you're here, you might as well see what your mother's been hiding." The photos spilled across the kitchen table, surveillance shots from a private investigator. Helen meeting with Lauren months before the affair began. Bank statements. Property deeds. A systematic dismantling of James Adams's fortune, with Helen taking her cut as the facilitator. Mom wouldn't. Mark's face went ashen. She couldn't. She did. Lauren wasn't the mastermind, she was the weapon. Helen used her to get rid of me, probably planned to discard her too once she served her purpose. I spread out more photos. "Your mother's done this before. 3 times. Different women, same scheme. How did you?" I had resources from my executive days. People who owed me favors. The kind of connections Helen never thought I'd use. I tapped one particular photo. "Remember Caroline? Your college girlfriend? The one who suddenly disappeared after Helen caught her looking at the family financial records?" Mark sank into a chair, his world visibly crumbling. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to choose. Right now." Lauren's facing fraud charges. James's lawyers are very motivated, and they've got evidence linking Helen to everything. I leaned forward. "You can keep protecting your mother, or you can do the right thing for once in your life. By helping you destroy my family? Your family destroyed itself. I'm just exposing the rot." His phone buzzed, Helen's face lighting up the screen. Mark stared at it, then at the photos, his hands shaking. "What do you want me to do?" "Testify. Tell James's lawyers everything you know about Helen's involvement. Help them trace the money." "And if I don't?" I pulled out one final photo, Helen with Lauren's predecessor, dated 5 years ago. The woman's face was familiar. Too familiar. "Then I send this to Evan. Let him know why his first wife really left him." Mark's breath caught. "You wouldn't. The old Sarah wouldn't. But you all helped create this version of me. Remember?" The phone kept buzzing. Helen's calls growing more urgent. Mark looked trapped, cornered by his own family's lies. "I'll do it," he whispered. "But not for you. For Evan. He deserves to know the truth." Smart choice. I gathered the photos, leaving him the ones he'd need for the lawyers. "You should go. Lauren will be looking for you once the pregnancy news breaks publicly." He stood, aged years in minutes. At the door, he paused. "I did love you, Sarah. In my way. Your way wasn't enough." I closed the door on his response. My phone lit up with a text from Nina. "Lauren just posted about the baby. Social media's exploding. You okay?" I looked at the remaining photos, evidence of Helen's past schemes. Of lives she'd ruined for her family's reputation. The familiar cold clarity settled over me again. "I'm fine," I typed back. "Just figuring out my next move." Because this wasn't about Mark anymore, or even Lauren. This was about Helen Mitchell, and the legacy of destruction she'd left in her wake. She thought she was protecting her family's reputation. I was going to make sure that reputation was the first thing to burn. The fertility clinic's waiting room felt different now. Sterile. Empty. Like visiting a house you once lived in, only to find strangers had painted over your memories. "Mrs. Mitchell?" The nurse's voice carried old sympathy. "Dr. Williams will see you now." "It's Miss Carter again," I corrected, following her down the familiar hallway. My maiden name felt like armor. Dr. Williams hadn't changed, same kind eyes, same gentle manner. But her expression held something new. Concern, maybe. Or pity. "Sarah," she said, gesturing to the chair. "I was surprised to see your name on my schedule. I need my records. All of them." She folded her hands on the desk. "This is about the investigation, isn't it? The fraud allegations against Helen Mitchell?" My head snapped up. She smiled sadly. "Small community. Word travels." She pulled out a thick file. "Helen called yesterday. Tried to access your records herself. Something about proving medical negligence on our part." The room tilted slightly. "She what?" "She claimed you'd authorized it. When we refused, she became insistent." Dr. Williams opened the file. "Sarah, there's something you should see." She slid across a lab report dated 6 months ago. "My last failed IVF attempt. Look at the hormone levels." I scanned the numbers, then froze. "This can't be right. Your body was responding perfectly to the treatment. The embryo was viable. Strong." She paused. "Someone tampered with your medication during the critical window." The words hit like shards of glass. "How?" "The prescription was altered. Dosage changed." Another document appeared. "This is the original prescription. And this," she placed another beside it, "is what was actually filled. Notice the signature? Helen's handwriting. Subtle changes to the numbers. Just enough to ensure failure." My phone buzzed. "Evan, Helen's telling everyone you falsified medical records to frame her. Lauren's backing her up. They're going to the board tonight." The room spun. Dr. Williams's voice seemed to come from far away. "Sarah? Do you need a moment?" "No." My voice sounded strange, distant. "I need copies. Of everything. Already done." She handed me a sealed envelope. "Sarah. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Helen Mitchell has a lot of influence in this community." I stood, envelope clutched to my chest. Not for long. Outside, Nina waited in her car. One look at my face and she knew. "What happened?" "She killed my baby." The words tasted like acid. She made sure I'd never. My hands were shaking. Nina grabbed them. "Sarah, breathe. Tell me what you need." My phone buzzed again. "Lauren, this time, we should talk. About the baby. About everything. I need you to drive me to Lauren's." "Are you sure?" "After everything. She's pregnant with James's baby. A baby Helen can't control." The pieces clicked into place. "And she just gave me exactly what I need to destroy them both." Nina studied me for a long moment. "This isn't just revenge anymore, is it?" "No." I touched the envelope containing proof of Helen's ultimate betrayal. "This is justice." The drive to Lauren's was silent. She opened the door looking nothing like the polished socialite from the gala. Her eyes were red, her designer clothes replaced by sweatpants. I was hoping you'd come, she said. Save it. I pushed past her into the house. You're going to tell me everything. Every scheme, every lie, every time Helen manipulated someone's life for her precious family legacy. And why would I do that? I placed the medical records on her coffee table. Because you're carrying the one thing Helen can't control. And trust me, what she did to me? She'll do worse to you. Lauren's hand drifted to her stomach. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. If I help you, she whispered. Then we take her down. Together. I leaned forward. Or you can trust the woman who just proved she's willing to kill an unborn child to maintain her control. Lauren picked up the medical records with trembling hands. As she read, her face went from pale to ashen. Oh God, she breathed. What have I helped her do? The question is, I said, watching her world crumble like mine had, what are you going to do about it? Outside, storm clouds gathered. Perfect weather for what was coming. The Mitchell family estate loomed against the twilight sky, its windows glowing like predatory eyes. The annual board meeting for their charitable foundation was in full swing, Helen's last bastion of power and respectability. Everyone's inside, Evan whispered, meeting me at the side entrance. Mom's about to announce the new funding allocations. Is Mark here? Front row. Looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He touched my arm. Sarah, are you sure about this? Once you do this. Your mother killed my baby, Evan. The words still felt raw. She doesn't get to play charitable savior anymore. Inside, Helen's voice carried through the oak-paneled halls, smooth as aged whiskey. And with these new initiatives, we'll be expanding our support for family planning services. Lauren waited in the shadows, one hand protectively over her stomach. Her testimony would seal Helen's fate. If she followed through. I stepped into the boardroom. Heads turned. Helen's speech faltered. Sarah. Her recovery was immediate, practiced. This is a private meeting. Perfect. Because I have some private matters to discuss. I moved to the center of the room. Like how you tampered with medical prescriptions. How you deliberately sabotaged my fertility treatments. Murmurs rippled through the board members. Helen's smile tightened. You're clearly disturbed, she said. Mark, perhaps you should escort your wife. Ex-wife, I corrected. And I have proof. I pulled out the medical records. Your signature. Your alterations. Your calculated destruction of a viable pregnancy. Those records are falsified, Helen snapped. Lauren, tell them. You witnessed Sarah's instability firsthand. Lauren stepped forward, trembling. All eyes turned to her. But before she could speak, Mark stood up. It's true. All of it. I found Mom's notes. The plans. Everything. Helen's mask cracked. Mark, sit down. She did it before, he continued. To Evan's wife. To others. Anyone who threatened her control over the family. The room erupted in whispers. Helen's face contorted. You ungrateful, she caught herself, smoothing her expression. Ladies and gentlemen, my son is clearly under duress. These accusations are supported by police evidence. James Adams stepped in from the hallway, flanked by 2 detectives. The investigation into the financial fraud led us to the medical records. Helen Mitchell, you're under arrest. Everything happened at once. Helen lunged for the medical records. Someone screamed. I felt hands grabbing me, pulling me back. Through the chaos, I saw Helen's face transform into something feral, desperate. You think this changes anything? She snarled at me. You're still barren. Still worthless. I protected this family from women like you. No, Mother. Evan's voice cut through the room. You destroyed this family. And now everyone knows. As the detectives led Helen away, her composure finally shattered. "Mark. Tell them. Tell them why we had to stop her." But Mark wouldn't meet her eyes. Lauren stepped closer to me, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have told you sooner. About everything." I watched Helen disappear through the doors, her perfectly crafted world crumbling around her. Victory should have tasted sweeter. Instead, I felt hollow. Nina found me later, sitting alone in the empty boardroom. "You did it," she said softly. "It's over." "Is it?" I touched my stomach, remembering the child that never was. "The truth's out. Helen's going to prison. But I still can't." "Sarah." Nina knelt beside me. "What Helen did was monstrous. But letting it consume you? That's letting her win. Then what was the point of all this? Justice. Closure." She squeezed my hand. "But revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just proves you survived them." Outside, camera flashes lit up the darkness. Tomorrow, the Mitchell family scandal would be everywhere. Helen's carefully constructed dynasty would be ashes. But as I sat there, surrounded by the wreckage of so many lives, I wondered if winning felt this empty for Helen too. If her need for control had left her as hollow as my need for revenge. The night air carried the scent of rain. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, nature's applause for a tragedy well played. The prison visiting room smelled of industrial cleaner and stale coffee. Helen sat across from me, orange jumpsuit stark against her pale skin. Looking somehow smaller without her designer clothes and carefully crafted persona. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said, hands folded precisely on the metal table. I needed to understand. I placed Lauren's latest ultrasound photo between us. "She's having a girl." Something flickered in Helen's eyes. "And you came to gloat? To show me the grandchild I'll never meet?" "I came to show you what you failed to destroy." I leaned forward. "Lauren's keeping the baby. James is standing by her. Everything you tried to prevent is happening anyway. You think you understand anything?" Her laugh was bitter. "You saw the medical records. The fraud. But did you ever ask why? Because you're a monster? Because I was protecting them." Her mask cracked slightly. "Mark. Evan. This family destroys the women who enter it. Has for generations." I felt the floor shift beneath me. "What are you talking about?" "My mother-in-law did to me what I did to you. 3 times. Her words came faster now. "I lost 3 babies before I learned to play by her rules. To become what she wanted. The perfect wife. The perfect mother. So you became her? Continued the cycle? I became stronger than her." Helen's eyes burned. "I controlled it. Managed it. Protected my boys from women who would weaken them. Like Evan's first wife? She would have ruined him with her independence. Her career ambitions." Helen's fingers twitched. "Like you would have ruined Mark. By wanting a baby? By loving him? By making him depend on you." The words exploded from her. "Strong women destroy weak men. I made my sons strong by keeping them dependent on me." The truth hit like a physical blow. "You're not protecting them. You're caging them." "I'm surviving." Her composure cracked completely. "And now Lauren's baby will continue it. Another generation of Mitchell women, destroying themselves to please the family name." I stood up, my chair scraping against concrete. "No. You're wrong." "Am I?" "Look at yourself, Sarah. Look what revenge has made you." "Revenge didn't make me." I placed another photo on the table. Helen's arrest splashed across the morning papers. "You did. Every scheme, every manipulation, every baby you killed made me stronger. Made Lauren stronger. Lauren is weak. She'll fail, just like. She's already succeeded. She's breaking the cycle. I gathered the photos. And so am I. By walking away? Proving me right? By choosing to heal instead of hate. I met her eyes one last time. Your granddaughter will never know you. But she'll know your story. As a warning, not a legacy. Helen's facade shattered completely. Sarah, wait. Goodbye, Helen. I turned toward the door. The Mitchell family line of destruction ends with you. You can't just leave me here. Her voice cracked with desperation. I'm all they have. No. You're all you have. I nodded to the guard. And that's your real punishment. Outside, Lauren waited in Nina's car, her hand resting on her growing belly. Did you get what you needed? She asked. I watched Helen being led back to her cell through the prison window. I got something better. Understanding. And I'm done. The words felt like releasing a breath I'd been holding for years. With all of it. The revenge, the anger, the Mitchell family legacy. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. For everything. I know. I touched her stomach gently. But she's a new beginning. For both of us. Nina started the car, and as we pulled away from the prison, I caught one last glimpse of Helen through the barred windows. A small figure in orange, trapped in the cage she'd spent a lifetime building. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors of healing and hope. Tomorrow, I would call the fertility clinic again. Start fresh. But this time, I'd be carrying something stronger than revenge. I'd be carrying freedom. The nursery walls were a soft green, not pink, not blue, but the color of new leaves in spring. I watched Lauren arrange stuffed animals in the crib while her daughter kicked against my palm. She's strong, I said. Like her aunts. Lauren's smile was tentative, still testing the boundaries of our fragile new friendship. Both of them. The invitation to help decorate the nursery had surprised me. More surprising was how right it felt, this quiet act of healing. My phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Williams. Test results are in. Come see me? Go, Lauren said, reading my expression. I'll finish up here. The fertility clinic's familiar corridors no longer felt like a battlefield. Dr. Williams waited with a different kind of smile than before. The new treatment protocol is working, she said, sliding the results across her desk. Your body's responding perfectly. I stared at the numbers, remembering Helen's tampering. And there's no chance. I'm personally overseeing everything. She leaned forward. Sarah, you're ready. Whenever you decide to try again. The weight of possibility settled in my chest. Not hope, not yet, but its quiet predecessor. Outside, Evan waited on the clinic steps. We'd been meeting for coffee regularly, a simple routine that had evolved into something neither of us had expected. Good news? He asked. I showed him the results. His hand found mine, warm and steady. I saw Mark yesterday, he said carefully. He's starting therapy. Finally dealing with everything. Good for him. The words held no bitterness, only a distant acknowledgement. He asked about you. And what did you tell him? That you're healing. That we all are. A text from Nina lit up my phone. Lauren's water broke. The hospital waiting room filled quickly. James pacing nervously, Nina documenting everything, Evan's solid presence beside me. Mark arrived last, hovering uncertainly at the edges until James surprisingly waved him over. Hours passed. When the nurse finally appeared, her smile told us everything. Healthy baby girl, she announced. Mother's doing fine. We filed in to meet the newest Mitchell, though she'd carry the Adams name, breaking one more link in Helen's chain. Lauren looked exhausted but peaceful, her daughter tiny and perfect in her arms. Sarah, she said softly. Would you like to hold her? The baby settled into my arms, her weight both foreign and familiar. She opened her eyes, dark and clear, untouched by legacy or pain. "What's her name?" Mark asked from the doorway. Lauren met my eyes. "Hope." Later, in the hospital garden, Evan found me staring at the stars. "You okay?" "I thought revenge would feel like winning," I said. "But this feels like freedom." "From Helen?" "From everything. The anger. The need to prove something." I touched my stomach, thinking of Dr. Williams's results. "I'm ready to try again. For me this time, not for anyone else's expectations." "You won't be doing it alone," he said quietly. A nurse called us back inside. Through the nursery window, I watched Hope sleeping peacefully, unaware of the generations of pain that had led to her existence. My phone buzzed one last time, a collect call from the prison. "Helen." I declined it, then deleted her number. Some legacies deserve to end. Some chains need breaking. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living well, free from the shadows of those who tried to define us. Hope stirred in her sleep, one tiny fist raised like a victory sign. Behind me, Evan waited patiently. Ahead, the future stretched out like an unwritten page. I was done with revenge. Done with the Mitchell family saga. But my own story? That was just beginning. Nina's camera flashed, capturing the moment, not for evidence this time, but for memory. For hope. For proof that even the darkest paths can lead to light, if you're brave enough to keep walking. And I was ready to walk forward, leaving the ashes of revenge behind, carrying only the lessons it had taught me about strength, survival, and the power of choosing your own legacy.
I was in the middle of organizing a high-profile art exhibit, juggling a million tasks at once, when my phone buzzed insistently in my pocket. I glanced at the screen, saw Ethan's name, and picked up immediately. His voice was urgent, almost frantic, and it sent a shiver down my spine. "Riley, we need to talk. Can you come over tonight? My family wants to have dinner." Now, let me back up a bit. My name's Riley. I'm an event planner at a prestigious art gallery, and I love what I do. It's chaotic but thrilling, like trying to tame a whirlwind. My life was pretty much a balancing act between my career and my relationship with Ethan, my fiancé. He's an environmental scientist, a bit introverted but genuinely supportive. We've been together for a while, and things were going well, or so I thought. The moment I walked into Ethan's family home, I felt the tension. It was almost tangible, like walking through a thick fog. Lorraine, Ethan's mother, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Riley, dear, nice to see you," she said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that felt more like syrup than honey. Vanessa, Ethan's sister, was already at the table, her eyes scanning me like I was some kind of puzzle she was trying to solve. "Riley," she said, nodding slightly. Her tone was polite, but there was an edge to it, a subtle challenge that made my skin prickle. Dinner started off with the usual small talk, but I could feel the undercurrents. Lorraine asked questions about my work, her interest too pointed to be genuine curiosity. "So, Riley, how do you manage such a demanding job and still find time for Ethan?" she asked, her eyes fixed on me. I smiled, trying to keep my tone light. "It's all about balance, I guess. Ethan's really supportive, and that helps a lot." Vanessa chimed in, her voice smooth but with a hint of something darker. "It must be hard, though. I mean, with all the late nights and events, it must take a toll on your relationship." I felt a flicker of irritation but kept my composure. "We make it work. We always find time for each other." Ethan, sitting beside me, reached for my hand under the table, giving it a reassuring squeeze. But his silence was unnerving. He seemed distant, preoccupied, and it made me uneasy. As dinner went on, the conversation shifted, but the tension didn't. Vanessa's comments were laced with subtle digs, and Lorraine's questions felt more like interrogations. I could sense their skepticism, their doubt about me, and it stung. After dinner, as I was helping clear the table, Vanessa approached me in the kitchen. "You know, Riley," she said, her voice low, "Ethan's always been the type to trust too easily. I just hope you're as committed to him as he is to you." The insinuation was clear, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. I forced a smile, refusing to let her see how much her words affected me. "I love Ethan," I said simply, meeting her gaze. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment I saw something flicker there, fear, maybe, or insecurity. But then it was gone, replaced by that cool, calculating look. On the drive home, Ethan was quiet, lost in thought. I wanted to ask him what was going on, why his family seemed so hostile, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I focused on the road, my mind racing with questions. As we pulled up to our apartment, Ethan finally spoke. "I'm sorry about tonight, Riley. I didn't expect it to be so tense." I sighed, leaning back in my seat. "It's okay. I just wish I knew what was really going on." He hesitated, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. "There's something I need to tell you, but not tonight. Can we talk tomorrow?" His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. I nodded, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. As I lay in bed that night, staring up at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Something was brewing beneath the surface, something that could change everything. And I had a sinking feeling that Vanessa was at the center of it all. The next morning, Ethan and I sat across from each other at our small kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window, casting long shadows. I could see the worry etched on his face, and it mirrored the unease in my own heart. We needed to talk about last night, about the engagement announcement that was supposed to be a celebration but turned into a battlefield. "Ethan," I began, trying to keep my voice steady, "about your family. I just don't understand why they reacted that way." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I know. It's just complicated. Vanessa's always been protective, and my mom, well, she's set in her ways." I reached for his hand, needing the connection. "I want to get along with them, Ethan. But it's like everything I do is wrong in their eyes." He squeezed my hand, his eyes softening. "We'll figure it out, Riley. I promise." I nodded, trying to believe him, but the doubt lingered. As I got ready for work, I couldn't shake the feeling that Vanessa was more than just protective. There was something else driving her hostility, something deeper. At the gallery, I threw myself into my work, organizing the upcoming exhibit. The familiar chaos helped distract me, but my mind kept drifting back to Ethan's family. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't caught up in the middle of it all, someone who could give me perspective. During lunch, I called Mia, my best friend and confidant. We met at a small cafe near the gallery, and as soon as I saw her, I felt a wave of relief. Mia had a way of cutting through the noise and getting to the heart of things. "So," she said, taking a sip of her coffee, "what's going on with Ethan's family?" I told her everything, from the engagement dinner to Vanessa's passive-aggressive comments. Mia listened, her expression shifting from curious to concerned. "Riley," she said, leaning forward, "it sounds like Vanessa's got some serious control issues. Maybe she's afraid of losing her brother to you." I nodded, grateful for her insight. "But why? I mean, I'm not trying to take him away. I just want to be a part of his life." Mia shrugged. "People like Vanessa, they thrive on control. Maybe she's scared that if Ethan marries you, she won't have the same influence over him." Her words made sense, but they also added another layer of complexity to an already tangled situation. I thanked Mia for her advice, feeling a little more grounded as I headed back to work. That evening, as Ethan and I were preparing dinner, my phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. It was a list of wedding venues, all of which were far from what Ethan and I had discussed. It was a subtle but clear attempt to steer the wedding plans in her direction. "Look at this," I said, handing my phone to Ethan. "She's trying to take over our wedding." He frowned, scrolling through the list. "I'll talk to her, Riley. She needs to back off." I watched him, wondering if he would really stand up to his sister. I wanted to believe he would, but the doubt lingered. The next few days were a blur of work and wedding planning, with Vanessa's interference becoming more pronounced. She questioned every decision, sowing seeds of doubt in Ethan's mind. I could see the strain it was putting on him, and it hurt to watch him caught in the middle. Then, one evening, as we were going over the guest list, Ethan hesitated. "Riley, do you think we should reconsider the venue? Vanessa made some good points about the one we chose." I felt a flash of frustration. "Ethan, we picked that venue because it means something to us, not because it fits Vanessa's idea of a perfect wedding." He looked torn, and I could see the conflict in his eyes. "I know, but maybe she's right. Maybe we should think about it." His words stung, and I realized how deeply Vanessa's influence ran. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Ethan, this is our wedding. We should make the decisions, not Vanessa." He nodded, but the doubt lingered, and I knew this was far from over. As I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were spiraling out of control. Vanessa was driving a wedge between us, and I didn't know how to stop it, but I was determined to find a way, even if it meant confronting Vanessa head-on. The stakes were too high to back down now. The gallery was buzzing with activity when I stumbled upon the first hint of Vanessa's betrayal. I was flipping through emails on my phone, trying to juggle the latest exhibit details, when a message caught my eye. It was from an unknown sender with a subject line that simply read, FYI. Curiosity piqued, I opened it, only to find a screenshot of a social media post. It was Vanessa in some private group making snide comments about me and my dedication to my job. She implied that my late nights were more about secret rendezvous than art exhibits. The words were like a punch to the gut, each one a sharp reminder of her disdain. My hands shook as I scrolled through the messages, my mind racing. How could she stoop so low? The thought of her spreading such lies made my blood boil. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions swirling inside me. This was a new level of betrayal, and I needed to handle it carefully. That evening, I confronted Ethan. We were in the living room, the warm glow of the lamp casting soft shadows. I handed him my phone, letting him read Vanessa's words for himself. His face fell, a mix of disbelief and anger flickering in his eyes. Riley, I had no idea, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't believe she would do this. I nodded, my heart heavy. I don't know what to do, Ethan. She's trying to ruin my reputation, and it's not just about us anymore. It's my career. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I'll talk to her. This has to stop. But his words, though well-meaning, felt hollow. I needed more than promises. I needed action. And as much as I wanted to believe he could fix this, I knew it was up to me to protect myself. The next day, I met Mia for lunch again, needing her perspective. Her eyes widened as I showed her the messages. Riley, this is serious. You can't let her get away with this. I nodded, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I know, but what can I do? I can't just confront her without proof. Mia leaned back, thoughtful. You need to find out why she's doing this. There has to be a reason, something she's hiding. Her words struck a chord, and I realized she was right. Vanessa's actions were driven by more than just jealousy or control. There was something deeper, something I needed to uncover. That evening, as I was leaving the gallery, I received another anonymous message. This one was different, though. It hinted at Vanessa's own secrets, suggesting that her life wasn't as perfect as she portrayed. My curiosity piqued, I decided to dig deeper. Over the next few days, I started piecing together the puzzle. I reached out to a few contacts, discreetly asking questions and gathering information. It was risky, but I needed to know the truth. Then, just as I was beginning to lose hope, I received a tip that changed everything. Vanessa had been involved in a scandal at her law firm, something that had been quietly swept under the rug. It was a revelation that added a new layer to her actions, hinting at vulnerability and hypocrisy. Armed with this new information, I felt a surge of determination. Vanessa's facade was starting to crack, and I was ready to expose it. But I knew I had to be careful. This was a delicate dance, and one wrong move could ruin everything. That night, I sat down with Ethan, ready to share what I had discovered. Ethan, there's something you need to know about Vanessa. I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. He listened intently as I laid out the evidence, his expression shifting from shock to anger. I can't believe she would go this far, he said, his voice tight with emotion. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. I need to confront her, Ethan. This can't go on. He took my hand, his grip firm. I'm with you, Riley. Whatever you need, I'm here. His support meant everything, but I knew this was a battle I had to face head-on. Vanessa's web of lies was unraveling, and it was time to bring the truth to light. As I lay in bed that night, I felt a sense of clarity. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but I was ready to face them. Justice was within reach, and I was determined to see it through. The air in our apartment felt thick with unspoken words as Ethan and I prepared dinner. I could sense the tension between us, a silent acknowledgement of the storm brewing just outside our walls. Vanessa's manipulations had pushed us to the edge, and I knew we were teetering on a precipice. Ethan, I said, breaking the uneasy silence, we need to talk about the wedding, about everything. He paused, setting down the knife he was using to chop vegetables. I know, Riley. It's just, there's so much pressure from my family. I nodded, trying to keep my voice calm. I understand, but we can't let them dictate our lives. This is about us, not them. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're right. I just wish things were simpler. As we sat down to eat, I noticed a missed call from an unknown number on my phone. Curiosity piqued. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway to return the call. Hello, I said, my voice echoing slightly in the narrow space. Riley Thompson? A man's voice replied. This is Mark, the private investigator you contacted. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't expected to hear from him so soon. Yes, that's me. Do you have any news? I do, he said, his tone serious. I've found something you might want to see. It involves Vanessa Walker. I arranged to meet him the next day, my mind racing with possibilities. As I returned to the table, Ethan gave me a questioning look. Who is that? He asked, concern evident in his voice. Just someone from work. I lied, not wanting to worry him until I had more information. The following day, I met Mark at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. He was a no-nonsense type, straight to the point. As we sat down, he handed me a folder, his expression unreadable. What's this? I asked, opening it with a mix of anticipation and dread. Evidence, he replied simply. Vanessa's been involved in some questionable activities. I thought you'd want to know. Inside the folder were documents and photographs, each one more damning than the last. Vanessa had been using her position at the law firm to manipulate clients, bending the rules to her advantage. It was a tangled web of deceit, and it explained so much about her need for control. I felt a mix of vindication and sadness as I absorbed the information. Vanessa's actions had been driven by fear, a desperate attempt to maintain her facade. But this was more than just a personal vendetta. It was a professional scandal waiting to explode. As I left the cafe, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. I had the evidence I needed to confront Vanessa, but the implications were enormous. This wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. It was about exposing the truth and protecting those who might be hurt by her actions. Back home, I found Ethan in the living room, his expression tense. Riley, we need to talk, he said, his voice strained. I nodded, bracing myself for whatever was coming. What's on your mind? He hesitated, searching for the right words. My mom called. She wants us to postpone the wedding. She thinks we need more time. The request felt like a slap in the face, a stark reminder of the uphill battle we were fighting. And what do you think? I asked, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. He looked torn, his loyalty divided. I don't know, Riley. I love you, but this is tearing us apart. His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Ethan, I found something out about Vanessa. Something big. His eyes widened, a mix of surprise and apprehension. What do you mean? I handed him the folder, watching as he flipped through the contents. His expression shifted from shock to anger, and I could see the realization dawning on him. This changes everything, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. We can't let her control us anymore, Ethan. We need to stand up to her. He met my gaze, a newfound resolve in his eyes. You're right. We can't let her win. As we sat together, the weight of the situation settled over us. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. We were stronger together, and with the truth on our side, we could face whatever came next. The tension in the air was palpable as Ethan and I drove to his parents' house for yet another family gathering. This time, though, the stakes were much higher. I had the evidence of Vanessa's deceit tucked securely in my bag, and my heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and dread. Today could change everything. As we pulled into the driveway, Ethan reached for my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Are you sure you're ready for this? He asked, his voice tinged with concern. I nodded, steeling myself for what lay ahead. I have to be. This can't go on. Inside, Lorraine greeted us with her usual formal warmth, but I could sense an underlying tension. Vanessa was already there, sitting with Greg and chatting as if nothing was amiss. Her smile was bright, but her eyes darted toward me with a hint of suspicion. We settled into the living room, the atmosphere thick with unspoken words. I could feel my pulse quicken as I glanced around, my mind racing with everything I needed to say. Ethan cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. Mom, Dad, there's something we need to discuss. Vanessa's eyes narrowed slightly, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. What is it? She asked, her tone deceptively casual. I took a deep breath, reaching into my bag and pulling out the folder. I found something out about you, Vanessa. Something that explains a lot. Her smile faltered, replaced by a mask of feigned innocence. I have no idea what you're talking about. I opened the folder, laying the documents out on the coffee table for everyone to see. These are records of your dealings at the law firm. You've been manipulating clients, Vanessa, using your position for personal gain. The room fell silent, the weight of the accusation hanging in the air. Vanessa's face went pale, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. Lorraine gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Vanessa, is this true? Vanessa's composure cracked, anger flaring in her gaze. This is ridiculous. Riley, you're just trying to turn my family against me. Ethan stood by my side, his expression resolute. Vanessa, we need the truth. This isn't just about us anymore. Greg looked between us, confusion etched on his face. Vanessa, what is this? She hesitated, her facade crumbling. I did what I had to do. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The room erupted into chaos, voices overlapping as everyone tried to make sense of the situation. I watched Vanessa, her desperation evident as she scrambled to regain control. Lorraine's voice cut through the noise, firm and authoritative. Enough! Vanessa, you need to explain yourself. Vanessa's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally, but finding none. I was protecting our family, keeping everything together. Her words hung in the air, a weak justification that did little to quell the rising tension. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I couldn't let that deter me from what needed to be done. Ethan turned to me, his expression conflicted. Riley, what do we do now? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. We can't let this continue. Vanessa needs to face the consequences of her actions. Vanessa's eyes blazed with anger, but there was a hint of resignation there too. You think you're so righteous, Riley, but you don't know what it's like to be me. Her words struck a chord, and I realized that beneath her manipulations lay a deep-seated fear of losing control. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. As the conversation continued, I felt a shift within me. This wasn't just about revenge or justice anymore. It was about doing what was right, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. The gathering ended with Vanessa storming out, her world unraveling around her. Lorraine looked shaken, Greg bewildered by the revelations. Ethan and I stayed behind, helping to pick up the pieces. As we left, I felt a sense of clarity. The path ahead was uncertain, but I knew I was ready to face it. I had learned that true justice wasn't about retribution. It was about standing up for what was right, even when it was difficult. Ethan squeezed my hand as we drove home, a silent promise that we would face whatever came next together. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. The drive back from Ethan's parents' house was silent, the weight of the confrontation pressing down on us like a heavy fog. I stared out the window, watching the world blur past, my mind replaying the chaotic scene over and over. Despite the evidence laid bare, the fallout was more devastating than I had anticipated. When we got home, Ethan sank onto the couch, his face etched with exhaustion. I can't believe it came to this, he murmured, rubbing his temples. I nodded, feeling a similar weariness seep into my bones. I thought exposing the truth would make things better, but now it feels like everything's falling apart. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. We did the right thing, Riley. Vanessa's lies couldn't go on forever. But even as he said it, I could sense the doubt creeping in. The confrontation had left us both shaken, and the path forward seemed more uncertain than ever. The next morning, I received a call from Lorraine. Her voice was strained, the usual authoritative edge softened by something else, vulnerability perhaps. Riley, can we talk? Just the two of us. I agreed, curious and a little apprehensive. We met at a quiet cafe, the kind of place where secrets could be shared without fear of being overheard. Lorraine looked tired, her usual poise replaced by a weariness that mirrored my own. Thank you for meeting me, she said, her voice low. I know things have been difficult. I nodded, unsure of what to say. They have, but I believe the truth needed to come out. She sighed, a deep, resigned sound. Vanessa's always been complicated. I tried to protect her, to shield her from the consequences of her actions. But maybe that was a mistake. Her admission caught me off guard, a glimpse into the dynamics that had shaped their family. It's not easy to see someone you love make mistakes, I said softly. Lorraine nodded, her eyes distant. I just wanted to keep the family together. But now I'm not sure if that's even possible. The conversation left me with more questions than answers, a sense of unease settling over me as I headed back to the gallery. The situation felt more tangled than ever, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were teetering on the edge of something even more precarious. As I immersed myself in work, trying to find solace in the familiar chaos of event planning, my phone buzzed with a message from Mia. Call me ASAP, it read, the urgency unmistakable. I stepped outside, dialing her number with a sense of foreboding. Mia, what's going on? Her voice was tense, a sharp contrast to her usual calm demeanor. Riley, I just got a tip. Vanessa's not done. She's planning to take legal action against you for defamation. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, the breath leaving my lungs in a rush. What? She can't be serious. Riley, she's desperate. She's trying to salvage what's left of her reputation, and she's willing to drag you down with her. The ground seemed to shift beneath me, the precarious balance I'd been clinging to threatening to crumble entirely. I don't know what to do, Mia. This could ruin everything. Stay strong, Riley. You have the truth on your side. But be careful. She's playing dirty. As I hung up, a wave of despair washed over me. Vanessa's vendetta had reached a new level, and the stakes had never been higher. I felt the weight of it pressing down on me, the path forward obscured by uncertainty and fear. That evening, Ethan and I sat in the dim light of our living room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken fears. I could see the worry etched on his face, a mirror of my own inner turmoil. "We're in this together, Riley," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "No matter what happens." I nodded, grateful for his support even as doubt gnawed at the edges of my resolve. The situation felt hopeless, the odds stacked against us in a way I hadn't anticipated. But as I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized something important. My fight wasn't just about clearing my name or exposing Vanessa's lies. It was about protecting the life Ethan and I were building, standing up for what was right even when the odds seemed insurmountable. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, but I knew I couldn't back down now. I had come too far, and the truth was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The tension in the room was electric as we gathered at Lorraine's house for what felt like the final showdown. Vanessa was there, her demeanor icy and composed, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling around us. Lorraine stood by the window, her face a mask of worry. Greg was absent, a telling sign of the fractures Vanessa's actions had caused. Ethan and I exchanged a glance, drawing strength from each other as we prepared to face the storm. The air was thick with anticipation, each of us aware that this confrontation would change everything. Vanessa broke the silence first, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "I suppose you're here to gloat, Riley. You think you've won." I shook my head, keeping my voice steady. "This isn't about winning, Vanessa. It's about the truth." She smirked, her eyes cold and calculating. "Truth? You think exposing my personal life is some kind of moral victory?" Ethan stepped forward, his voice firm. "Vanessa, this isn't just about you. Your actions have hurt everyone around you." Her eyes flicked to him, a flash of vulnerability breaking through her facade. "I did what I had to do. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Lorraine turned from the window, her voice soft but resolute. "Vanessa, we've all made mistakes. But this has gone too far." The room fell silent, the weight of Lorraine's words settling over us. Vanessa's composure wavered, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. "You think I wanted this? To be exposed like some criminal?" I took a deep breath, stepping forward. "Vanessa, we didn't want it to come to this either. But your actions left us no choice." Her gaze met mine, a storm of emotions swirling in her eyes, anger, fear, and something else I couldn't quite place. "And what about you, Riley? You're no saint. You think you can just waltz into this family and turn everyone against me." I held her gaze, refusing to back down. "I never wanted to turn anyone against you. But I couldn't stand by and let you destroy everything Ethan and I have worked for." Vanessa's facade cracked, her voice rising with desperation. "You have no idea what it's like to feel everything slipping away, to lose control." The words hung in the air, a raw admission that cut through the tension. It was a glimpse into the fear that had driven her actions, a fear I could understand, even if I couldn't condone it. Lorraine stepped forward, her expression softening. "Vanessa, we can help you. But you need to let us in." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I saw the vulnerability beneath her tough exterior. But just as quickly, she blinked them away, her walls snapping back into place. "I don't need your help," she snapped, her voice laced with defiance. Ethan reached for my hand, his grip a steadying presence. "Vanessa, please. We want to move forward, but we can't do that if you're still trying to tear us apart." For a moment, I thought she might relent, but then her expression hardened. "Do what you want, but don't expect me to just roll over and play nice." The tension in the room was palpable, each of us caught in a web of conflicting emotions. I felt a pang of sadness for Vanessa, but I knew we couldn't let her continue down this path. As the confrontation reached its peak, an unexpected voice broke the silence. It was Greg, standing in the doorway, his expression one of quiet determination. "Vanessa, we need to talk." Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "Greg, this isn't the time." He shook his head, his voice calm but firm. "It is. We need to figure this out, for us and for the family. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Vanessa's bravado faltered, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. As Greg led Vanessa out of the room, I felt a sense of resolution settle over me. The path ahead was still uncertain, but we had faced the storm and come out stronger for it. Ethan squeezed my hand, a silent promise that we would face whatever came next together. And as we left Lorraine's house, I felt a newfound sense of peace. The fight for justice had tested us in ways I hadn't anticipated, but it had also shown me the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for what was right. The weeks following the confrontation were a whirlwind of change and reflection. Ethan and I decided to step back from the chaos, focusing on rebuilding our lives away from the drama that had consumed us for so long. It was a decision that felt both liberating and daunting, but one we knew was necessary for our future. We found a small cottage on the outskirts of town, a peaceful retreat where we could finally breathe and plan for the life we wanted to build together. The days were filled with quiet moments, walks in the nearby woods, and the simple joy of each other's company. It was a stark contrast to the turmoil we'd endured, a chance to rediscover the love that had brought us together in the first place. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, Ethan turned to me, his expression thoughtful. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if we hadn't stood up to Vanessa?" I considered his question, the weight of it settling over me. "I think we would have lost ourselves trying to please everyone else," I replied, my voice steady. "But standing up for the truth, for us, was the right thing to do." He nodded, a soft smile playing on his lips. "I'm proud of us, Riley. We faced so much, but we came out stronger." As we sat there, I felt a deep sense of peace settle over me. The journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had also taught me the importance of resilience and the power of standing up for what was right. A few days later, we received a letter from Lorraine. It was a simple note, but her words carried a weight of sincerity and reflection. She apologized for the pain her family had caused and expressed a desire to mend the rift, to start anew. Ethan and I read the letter together, our emotions a mix of relief and hope. It was a step toward healing, a chance to rebuild relationships that had been strained by the past. As the days turned into weeks, we found ourselves settling into a new rhythm. I returned to the gallery, pouring my creativity into new exhibits and finding joy in the work I loved. Ethan continued his research, his passion for the environment rekindled by the peace we had found. One afternoon, as I was organizing a new exhibit, Mia stopped by, her presence a welcome reminder of the support that had carried me through the darkest times. "How's life in the countryside treating you?" she asked, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "It's exactly what we needed. A fresh start." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I'm glad, Riley. You deserve this happiness." As we chatted, I felt a sense of closure settling over me. The journey had been difficult, but it had also been transformative. I had learned to stand up for myself, to fight for the truth, and to cherish the love that had withstood the storm. But even as we moved forward, there was a lingering question in my mind, a curiosity about Vanessa's future. She had faced the consequences of her actions, but I couldn't help but wonder if she would find her own path to redemption. One evening, as Ethan and I sat by the fire, I voiced my thoughts. "Do you think Vanessa will be okay?" He considered my question, his gaze thoughtful. "I hope so. Everyone deserves a chance to change, to find their way back." His words resonated with me, a reminder of the complexity of human nature and the potential for growth and forgiveness. It was a subtle twist in our resolution, a lingering question that added depth to our journey. As the fire crackled softly, I felt a sense of completion. Our story had been one of struggle and triumph, of love and justice. And though some questions remained, I knew we had found our own peace, a peace built on truth, resilience, and the unwavering belief in the power of love. With Ethan by my side, I looked toward the future with hope, ready to embrace whatever came next. Our journey had taught us to stand strong, to cherish the bonds that truly mattered, and to find beauty in the imperfect, unpredictable path of life.
The magazine feels heavier than it should, like it's made of lead instead of glossy paper. My brother Ryan's perfect smile beams from the cover of Business Elite, his carefully styled hair and tailored suit screaming success. Thompson Air takes tech world by storm, the headline declares. I trace my finger over the embossed letters, wondering if they'll cut deep enough to draw blood. My name is Mila, and I'm the invisible Thompson. Darling, there you are. Mother's voice rings across our mansion's marble foyer. Have you seen the magazine? Isn't your brother absolutely magnificent? I turn slowly, clutching my own letter behind my back, the one announcing my nonprofit's successful expansion into 3 new cities. Yes, Mother. Very magnificent. We're having a celebration dinner tonight. The whole board will be there. She adjusts her pearl necklace, a nervous tic I've observed since childhood. Do wear something appropriate. That last dress you chose for the charity gala was rather pedestrian. I have a meeting tonight with potential investors. Oh, reschedule that little project of yours. This is family. She waves her hand dismissively. Your father's already ordered Ryan's favorite champagne. The letter crumples in my fist. Bright Futures isn't a little project. We've helped over 1,000 underprivileged kids. Yes, very noble. She checks her reflection in the hallway mirror. But really, Mila, playing social worker isn't quite the same as running a multi-million-dollar corporation, is it? Something snaps inside me. You're right, Mother. It's not the same. I'm actually making a difference instead of just making money. Her perfectly penciled eyebrows arch. Don't be bitter, dear. It doesn't suit you. Now, dinner's at 7. Do something with that hair of yours. She clicks away on her designer heels, leaving me standing there with my crumpled achievement in one hand and my brother's success story in the other. I walk to Father's study, hearing voices through the heavy oak door. Ryan's numbers are concerning, Father's voice, grave and low. The tech division is hemorrhaging money. David, he just needs time, Mother responds. And perhaps additional resources. Mila's trust fund could cover the shortfall. She's not using it anyway, just throwing money at that charity project. The magazine slips from my fingers, hitting the floor with a soft thud. They both fall silent. I push the door open, meeting their startled faces. My trust fund. Mila, Father straightens in his leather chair. This is a private conversation. About my money. My voice sounds strange, distant. To bail out Ryan's mistakes. Mother steps forward, arms outstretched. Darling, you don't understand business. I understand perfectly. The letter in my hand unfolds, revealing the impressive statistics of my organization's growth. While you've been propping up your golden child, I've built something sustainable. Something that matters. Now see here, Father rises, his face flushing. Your brother is carrying on the Thompson legacy. By running it into the ground? The words taste like venom. Go ahead, take my trust fund. But remember this moment, when you chose to rob your daughter to save your son's ego. I turn to leave, but Mother grabs my arm. You're being dramatic. Family supports family. Funny. I pull away from her grasp. I don't remember getting much support when I started Bright Futures. In fact, I remember you calling it my little hobby. Mila, Father starts, but I'm already walking away. Enjoy your celebration dinner, I call over my shoulder. I have an empire of my own to build. I close the study door behind me, my heart pounding against my ribs. They want my trust fund? Fine. But they're about to learn that the overlooked Thompson daughter has inherited something far more valuable than money, determination. And revenge, I'm discovering, is an excellent motivator. Grace's apartment always feels like a sanctuary, especially tonight. She hands me a glass of wine and settles onto her worn leather couch, her dark eyes studying my face. So you just walked out? What else could I do? I take a long sip. They're planning to raid my trust fund to save Ryan's mess. Again. Jesus. She tucks her legs under her. And the celebration dinner? Probably still going on. Mother's likely explaining my absence as Mila being difficult while they toast Ryan's magazine cover. My phone buzzes, another message from Mother. I silence it without looking. You know what the worst part is? I stand, pacing Grace's small living room. Ryan's actually terrible at his job. The tech division's failing, and they're throwing good money after bad just to maintain the illusion of the perfect son. Grace leans forward. How do you know about the tech division? Overheard, Father. But I've been watching the company's quarterly reports. The numbers don't lie, even if my family does. My phone lights up again, Ryan this time. I answer it on speaker, if only to prove a point to Grace. Where are you? His words slur slightly. Mother's upset. Mother's always upset when I don't play my assigned role. Don't be like that, Mills. He hiccups. Just come to dinner. Everyone's asking about you. No, they're not. They're asking about you, your magazine cover, your company. I pause. How's the tech division doing, by the way? Silence crackles over the line. That's what I thought. I end the call, turning to Grace. See, what are you going to do? Before I can answer, my phone rings again. Father's name flashes on the screen. I answer it, my voice steady. Yes, your behavior is unacceptable. His tone carries that familiar disappointment. You've embarrassed your mother and upset your brother. Funny how my feelings never factor into these family equations. This isn't about feelings, Mila. This is about family loyalty. I laugh, the sound sharp enough to make Grace wince. Loyalty? Is that what you call stealing my trust fund to cover Ryan's mistakes? We are not stealing anything. We're reallocating family resources. They're not family resources, Father. That money is mine. Grandmother left it to me specifically. Your grandmother wouldn't want to see the family business fail. No, I cut him off. She wouldn't. Which is why I'm going to save it my way. What are you talking about? I'm calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. As a major shareholder, it's my right. Mila, his voice holds a warning. 9 a.m. sharp, Father. Don't be late. I hang up, my hands shaking. Grace whistles low. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Maybe both. I sink back onto the couch. But I'm done being the family afterthought. If they want to play with my money, they'll have to play by my rules. My phone chimes with a text from Ryan. Whatever you're planning, don't. Please. Grace reads it over my shoulder. He sounds scared. He should be. I forward the quarterly reports to my laptop. By tomorrow morning, the board will know exactly how their golden boy has been running their company into the ground. And then what? I meet her gaze. Then I offer them an alternative. A merger between Thompson Tech and Bright Futures, creating a socially responsible tech initiative that actually helps people instead of just lining shareholders' pockets. They'll fight you. Let them. I pull up the company bylaws on my phone. Grandmother didn't just leave me money, she left me voting shares. Equal to Ryan's. Father's been keeping that quiet, but tomorrow everyone finds out. Grace touches my arm. This could tear your family apart. No, I say, thinking of all the dismissive comments, the missed achievements, the years of being overshadowed. They did that themselves. I'm just making it official. My phone lights up one last time. Mother, whatever you're planning, remember you're a Thompson. I type back. For the first time, Mother, that's exactly what I'm counting on. The Thompson Industries boardroom feels colder than I remember. 14 pairs of eyes follow me as I walk to the podium, my heels clicking against marble floors that have witnessed decades of family legacy. Father sits at the head of the table, his jaw clenched. Ryan slumps beside him, looking like he hasn't slept. The quarterly reports speak for themselves, I say, gesturing to the screens displaying the damning numbers. The tech division has lost 40% of its value in 6 months. These are internal matters, Father interrupts, his voice sharp. This meeting is unnecessary. Is it unnecessary that my brother authorized 3 failed acquisitions without board approval? I click to the next slide. Or that he's been hiding the losses by moving money between subsidiaries? The room erupts in murmurs. Ryan's face drains of color. Miss Thompson, Bernard Walsh, our longest-serving board member, leans forward. These are serious allegations. They're not allegations. I distribute folders containing detailed documentation. They're facts. Facts that certain parties hope to cover up using my trust fund. Mother bursts through the boardroom doors, perfectly coiffed despite the early hour. This meeting is adjourned. Actually, I say, it's not. I have the floor. You have no right. I have every right. I pull out grandmother's will. As equal shareholder to Ryan, with voting rights that match his. Father stands so quickly his chair scrapes against the floor. That document is private. Was private, I correct him. Just like Ryan's mismanagement was private. But secrets have a way of coming out, don't they? The boardroom falls silent. I can hear Mother's pearls clicking as she fidgets. I move to suspend Ryan Thompson from his position as CEO, I announce, pending a full audit. Second, Walsh says quietly, "You can't do this," Ryan finally speaks, his voice cracking. "I'm your brother." "Yes, you are." I meet his gaze. Which is why I'm also proposing a solution. A merger between Thompson Tech and Bright Futures. Father laughs, but it sounds hollow. Your little charity project? My successful social enterprise that's actually turning a profit. I distribute another set of documents. Unlike the tech division, the board members flip through the papers, their expressions shifting from skepticism to interest. "This is ridiculous," Mother declares. "The Thompson name will be strengthened," I cut in, "by showing we care about more than just profit margins." Ryan stands abruptly, swaying slightly. I need air. He stumbles toward the door. "Meeting in recess," Walsh announces. 10 minutes. I find Ryan in our father's office, drinking straight from a crystal decanter. "A bit early, isn't it?" "Come to gloat." He doesn't turn around. "No." I close the door. "Come to understand why you let it get this bad. You don't know what it's like," he says, his words slurring. "Being the chosen one. The golden child. Do you know how terrifying it is to know you can't live up to it?" "Actually, I do." I take the decanter from his hands. "I've spent my whole life trying to prove I'm worth noticing." He looks at me then, really looks at me, maybe for the first time in years. "I'm drowning, Mills." "I know." I set the decanter down. "Let me help." "By taking over?" "By humiliating me. By saving what's left of both our legacies." I pull out my phone, showing him Bright Future success metrics. "We could do something that matters, Ryan. Together." He stares at the screen, then at me. "Why would you help me after everything?" "Because you're my brother." I pause. "And because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone, it's about forcing them to see the truth." The boardroom door opens. Father stands there, looking older than I've ever seen him. They're ready to vote. Ryan straightens his tie, his hands shaking slightly. "What do we do?" "We go back in there," I say, "and we show them what the Thompson siblings can do when we stop competing and start collaborating." He nods, then hesitates. "Mila? I'm sorry. For everything." "Prove it," I say, holding the door open. "Starting now." The board's decision hangs in the air like smoke. Thompson Tech and Bright Futures will merge, with shared leadership between Ryan and me. Victory should taste sweeter than this. Father corners me in the elevator after the meeting. "I have a counter-proposal. The board already voted. A position for you. Senior Vice President, directly under Ryan. Better salary, better benefits." He adjusts his tie. "Keep the family united." The elevator feels smaller suddenly. "You're trying to buy me off?" "I'm trying to protect this family." The doors open to the executive floor. "Think about it. Carefully." I step out, but he catches my arm. "Your mother's health isn't what it used to be, Mila. This stress. Consider that." The doors close on his perfectly composed face, leaving me with the weight of that subtle threat. Grace meets me at our usual cafe, but I can barely touch my coffee. He's using Mother as emotional leverage? Classic Thompson manipulation. I push the cup away. But that's not what worries me. What then? Ryan's been too quiet. After the board meeting, he just disappeared. My phone buzzes, an email from an anonymous account. The attachment makes my blood freeze. Internal documents showing Bright Futures funding sources, including several that would raise regulatory eyebrows. What is it? Grace leans over. Someone's been digging. I show her the screen. These donations. I had no idea they came from shell companies. Could it hurt Bright Futures? It could destroy everything I've built. My hands shake as I scroll through the data. The merger would expose all of this to auditors. A text from Ryan appears, Father's office. Now, I find them both there, Ryan looking haunted, Father behind his desk like a judge at sentencing. Close the door, Father says. Ryan won't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Mills. I had to tell him. Tell him what? Father slides a folder across his desk. Your friend Marcus Chin? The one who helped secure those major donations for Bright Futures last year. What about him? He works for our competitors. Those donations? designed to gather intelligence on Thompson Tech's vulnerabilities. Father's voice is eerily calm. Intelligence your brother says you helped provide. The accusation hits like a physical blow. That's not. We have the emails, Mila. Ryan finally looks up. You met with him 12 times last year. He was helping me network for bright futures. He was using you. Father stands. And now you've given our competitors everything they need to destroy us. The pieces click together. Marcus's pointed questions about Thompson Tech, his generous introductions to donors, his interest in my family dynamics. Take the VP position, Father says. We'll bury this, protect bright futures, keep the family intact. And the merger? Dies quietly. For everyone's good. I look at Ryan, see the desperation in his eyes. He needs this merger as much as I do, but fear has always been Father's most effective weapon. You have until tomorrow morning, Father adds. Choose wisely. Outside his office, Ryan grabs my arm. Mila, wait. I yank away. You knew about Marcus for how long? A month. Father made me track your meetings after the first merger proposal. So much for solidarity. I'm trying to protect you. No, I step back. You're protecting yourself. Like always. My phone buzzes again, another anonymous email. This time, it's Thompson Tech documents showing Father's own questionable dealings, dating back years. A text follows, thought you could use some leverage. Marcus. Playing both sides all along. I look back at Ryan, still hovering anxiously. Tell Father I'll have my answer in the morning. What are you going to do? I think of Father's threat of Ryan's betrayal of Marcus's games. Something nobody expects. Because that's the thing about being underestimated your whole life. People never see you coming until it's too late. The investors filling Thompson Industries' conference room look exactly like Father's crowd, old money, press suits, and expressions that say they've already decided against me. I grip my presentation remote tighter, trying to ignore Mother's pointed absence and Ryan's nervous fidgeting in the corner. Thompson Revive represents more than just a merger, I say, clicking to the next slide. It's a complete reimagining of what corporate responsibility can look like. Ambitious, Charles Whitman interrupts, his tone suggesting he means naive. But the Thompson name has always represented traditional values. Traditional values lost 40% of shareholder value this quarter. The words come out sharper than intended. Ryan flinches. Miss Thompson, another investor leans forward. Your charitable work is admirable, but this is business. Bright Futures turned a profit in its first year, I counter, while implementing sustainable practices and community programs that, through questionable funding sources, Father's voice cuts through the room as he enters. I apologize for my tardiness, but I've just received some concerning information about Bright Futures' financial backing. My heart stops. He wouldn't dare. Perhaps, Father continues, settling into his chair, we should discuss these irregularities before proceeding. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. I feel the investors' eyes shift, their judgment crystallizing. Any irregularities, I say carefully, would pale in comparison to certain historical Thompson Tech transactions. I meet Father's gaze. Shall we discuss those too? His expression doesn't change, but his knuckles whiten against the armrest. I have full documentation, I continue, of every Bright Futures transaction. Transparent and legitimate. Unlike some other company records I've recently discovered. Ryan stands abruptly. Mila. Sit down, Ryan. Father's voice could freeze hell. I click to the next slide. Profit projections for Thompson Revive. My proposal saves both companies and creates something stronger. Something honest. By exposing family secrets, Father's question carries a weight only I understand. By ending them, the room fills with murmurs. I notice Bernard Walsh studying me with new interest. Perhaps, Walsh says, we should review Miss Thompson's complete proposal before making any decisions. Father's phone buzzes. He checks it, and for the first time in my life, I see him pale. My own phone lights up with a message from Marcus. SEC filing complete. No turning back now. I swallow hard. I'd given him everything, Father's hidden accounts, Ryan's management failures, my own documentation of questionable practices. A complete record of Thompson Industries sins, now in regulatory hands. If you'll excuse us, father stands, I need a moment with my daughter. In the hallway, his calm facade cracks. What have you done? Exactly what you taught me. Protected the family legacy. I keep my voice steady. The SEC has everything. In about an hour, reporters will too. You'll destroy us all. No, I'll save us. Thompson Revive isn't just a merger, it's a complete restructuring. Clean books, ethical practices, legitimate success. I step closer. The board can either accept my proposal or face federal investigation. This isn't protection, it's blackmail. I learned from the best. Ryan appears in the hallway, his face ashen. The investors are waiting. Father straightens his tie, his mask sliding back into place. You forced my hand. No, I say, walking back toward the conference room. I've finally played it. Inside, Walsh is reviewing my numbers with obvious approval. The other investors lean in, whispers flying. Shall we continue? I ask, taking my position at the front. Father returns to his seat, defeat hidden behind decades of practice. Ryan stares at his hands. I click to the next slide, my grandmother's words echoing in my head. Sometimes saving something means breaking it first. The breaking is done. Now comes the hard part, building something true from the wreckage. Let me show you, I tell the room, what Thompson Revive can really become. Mother's birthday celebration at the Thompson Mansion feels like a battlefield dressed in evening wear. The SEC investigation hangs over us like a storm cloud, though most guests remain blissfully unaware. I adjust my black dress, the one Mother would call appropriate, and watch Ryan work the room with practiced charm. Darling, Mother appears beside me, champagne in hand. We need to discuss Thompson Revive's leadership structure. Not tonight. Yes, tonight. Her smile never wavers. The press is here. Perfect timing to announce Ryan's position as co-CEO. The champagne turns bitter in my mouth. That wasn't part of the deal. The deal? She laughs musically for nearby guests. Family isn't about deals, darling. It's about unity. Like using my trust fund without my consent? That kind of unity. Her fingers tighten around her glass. You've made your point with this little power play. Now it's time to be reasonable. Before I can respond, Father taps his glass for attention. The room quiets. Today, we celebrate not just my beloved wife's birthday, he announces, but also a new chapter for Thompson Industries. My stomach drops. He wouldn't dare. Our children, Mila and Ryan, will be joining forces to lead Thompson Revive together, continuing our family's legacy of excellence. Applause erupts. Ryan steps forward, wearing a practiced smile. I remain rooted in place. Smile, Mother hisses. The journal is watching. I move toward the podium, fury building with each step. Father hands me the microphone with a warning look. Thank you all for coming, I begin. But there seems to be some confusion about Thompson Revive's structure. Mother's champagne glass freezes halfway to her lips. While I appreciate my father's enthusiasm, Thompson Revive will continue under its current leadership. My leadership. The room falls silent. Ryan's smile cracks. Perhaps Father cuts in, reaching for the microphone. We should discuss details later. No. I step away from his reach. We've had enough discussions behind closed doors. Enough secrets. Enough manipulation. Mila, Mother's voice carries a sharp edge. Remember where you are. I remember exactly where I am. I turn to address the crowd. I'm standing in the house where I was taught that family means loyalty, while my parents plotted to steal my inheritance. Where success only counts if it fits their narrow definition. Phones appear, recording. Father moves toward me, but I continue. Thompson Revive exists because the old way of doing business failed. Because secrets and shortcuts nearly destroyed everything our grandparents built. That's enough. Mother's voice cracks like a whip. No, it's not enough. I pull out my phone, displaying the SEC filing. Everything's coming to light now. Everything. The room erupts in whispers. I see journalists furiously taking notes. You ungrateful child. Mother's perfect mask finally shatters. After everything we've done for you. Done for me? I laugh, the sound harsh even to my ears. What exactly have you done except dismiss, diminish, and deceive? I raised you to be strong. No, you raised me to be invisible. But I'm not anymore. Ryan steps between us. Mila, please. We can fix this. Fix what, Ryan? The company you ran into the ground? The trust fund they tried to steal? Or the fact that our parents would rather destroy everything than admit they were wrong? Security appears at father's signal. Mother's face is ash white. Miss Thompson, a guard approaches. Please come with us. It's fine. I hand him the microphone. I'm leaving anyway. As I walk toward the door, I hear Mother's voice, small and broken. What have you done? I turn one last time. Exactly what you taught me. Protected the family legacy. Just not the way you expected. Outside, rain begins to fall. My phone buzzes with messages, Grace, Ryan, board members, journalists. I ignore them all. I've won. I've exposed everything, forced their hands, claimed my power. So why does victory feel like ashes in my mouth? A text from Marcus appears. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Ready? I stare at the message, remembering Mother's shattered expression, Ryan's desperate plea, Father's cold fury. What's left to break when you've already destroyed everything? My fingers hover over the phone. The rain soaks through my expensive dress, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls. Marcus's true identity hits me like a physical blow. There he stands in Father's office, not as my ally, but as Thompson Tech's newest board member. Surprised, Father's voice carries a hint of satisfaction. Marcus has been quite helpful in understanding your strategy. You played me. The words taste like acid. All those documents, the SEC filing, were exactly what your father needed, Marcus interrupts, to prove your unfitness to lead. The morning papers splash across Father's desk, headlines screaming about Thompson family dysfunction, about my public meltdown at Mother's party. My calculated exposure of family secrets now reads like emotional instability. The board votes in an hour, Father says. To remove you from Thompson Revive completely. Ryan appears in the doorway, his face unreadable. It's done. My chest tightens. What's done? The merger paperwork. Bright Futures is now officially part of Thompson Industries. Ryan won't meet my eyes. Under my leadership, the room spins. Everything I've built, everything I've fought for. You can't. We can, Marcus smiles. Your signature from last month's preliminary agreement gave us everything we needed. I remember that document. Dozens of pages I'd trusted my own brother to review fairly. Why? I ask Ryan. After everything they did to you? Because family survives, he answers. And you've forgotten what that means. Forgotten. I laugh, the sound borderline hysterical. I remembered too much. Every dismissal, every comparison, every time they made me feel worthless. Enough. Father slams his hand down. You want to talk about worth? Look what your revenge has cost us. Stock prices plummeting, investors fleeing. Good. The word comes out sharp as a blade. Let it all burn. Mila, Ryan steps forward. Please, just sign the resignation. Walk away clean. I look at them. Father's cold authority, Marcus's smug satisfaction, Ryan's desperate plea, and something shifts inside me. You know what's funny? I move toward Father's desk. You're all so focused on what I might expose, you never asked why I had access to those documents in the first place. Father's expression flickers. Grandmother didn't just leave me money. I pull out my phone, displaying an email. She left me server access. To everything. Dating back 30 years. You're bluffing, Marcus says, but uncertainty creeps into his voice. Am I? I forward the email. Check your phones. Every board member just received 3 decades of Thompson Industries real books. Not the sanitized versions you showed the SEC. The color drains from Father's face. Mila, Ryan whispers. What have you done? Exactly what you taught me, little brother. I survived. I turn to Marcus. And those documents you helped Father collect? Manufactured. Every single one. Impossible. I learned from the best, didn't I, Father? About manipulation, about playing the long game. I check my watch. The real SEC filing goes live in about 30 seconds. Father lunges for his phone, but it's too late. The damage is done. You'll destroy everything, he says hoarsely. No, I'm forcing us to rebuild. Honestly, for once. I meet Ryan's gaze. Together, if you're willing. But this time as equals. The room falls silent except for the buzz of incoming messages as the news breaks. Ryan steps away from Father, then Marcus. How can I trust you after this? You can't. Just like I can't trust you. I hold out my hand. But we can try something new, respect. He stares at my offered hand, years of rivalry and resentment hanging between us. The board meeting starts soon, I say softly. We either walk in there united or watch it all collapse. Your choice. Father stands, straightening his tie. You're no longer my daughter. No, I agree. I'm your equal. Finally, Ryan takes my hand, his grip firm. I want to see the real books first. Of course you do. I smile slightly. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. We leave Father and Marcus scrambling with their phones, walking together toward the boardroom where our family's future waits to be rewritten. Not through revenge, but through truth. Finally, devastatingly, irrevocably true. Grandmother's study remains exactly as she left it, untouched since her passing 3 years ago. I trace my fingers along her desk, remembering all the times I'd watched her work here, commanding respect without raising her voice. The letter arrived this morning, held by her lawyers until this specific date. My hands shake as I unfold it. Dearest Mila, it begins. If you're reading this, you've finally done what I always knew you would, shattered the gilded cage our family built around itself. Ryan appears in the doorway, his tie loosened after the board meeting that officially established Thompson Revive's new structure. Mother's asking for you. Give me a minute. He steps inside instead, studying the room. I never understood why grandmother left you the server access. Father always said it was a clerical error. It wasn't. I hold up the letter. She knew. About everything. Ryan sits across from me, the mahogany desk between us like a judge's bench. Read it? I continue. The Thompson men have always mistaken cruelty for strength, control for leadership. Your father, like his father before him, believed power meant making others small. But true power, my dear girl, lies in lifting others up while standing your ground. My voice catches. Ryan reaches for the letter, but I shake my head and press on. I've watched you build bright futures, creating something meaningful while they dismissed your efforts. You understand what they never will. That legacy isn't about maintaining appearances, it's about creating positive change. The sound of heels clicking on hardwood interrupts. Mother stands in the doorway, her perfect posture slightly wilted. The lawyers are waiting, she says, to finalize the restructuring. There's more, I tell her, continuing to read. I'm not the first Thompson woman to face this battle. Your grandmother fought it too, Mila. And her mother before her. Each time, the men in our family chose pride over progress, control over collaboration. Mother steps into the room, drawn by words she never expected to hear. Until now. I look up at her. She knew we'd end up here. Your grandmother, Mother's voice wavers, was a formidable woman. Like daughter, like granddaughter, Ryan adds quietly. I fold the letter, but Mother gestures for me to continue. Please. My darling girl, remember this. Revenge is easy. Redemption is harder. True strength lies not in destroying what's broken, but in having the courage to rebuild it better. The company is yours now, as it should be. But the real legacy I leave you is this truth. Sometimes the greatest act of love is forcing those we care about to face their own reflections. The room falls silent. Through the window, I can see Father in the garden, looking older than I've ever seen him. He'll never forgive me, I say. No, Mother agrees. But he'll respect you. Eventually. Ryan stands, straightening his tie. The lawyers are waiting. And we have that meeting with the youth program directors. Bright Futures expansion? Mother asks, surprising us both. Yes, I say carefully. We're integrating their education initiative into Thompson Revive's corporate structure. She nods, almost to herself. Your grandmother would approve. I tuck the letter into my jacket pocket, feeling its weight against my heart. There's room in the meeting if you're interested. Mother hesitates, decades of ingrained behavior warring with something new in her eyes. Perhaps I could learn more about what you've built. Ryan opens the door, gesturing for us both. Shall we? I take one last look at grandmother's study, at the space where one Thompson woman dared to challenge the status quo so another could break it entirely. Yes, I say, leading the way out. Let's build something new. The letter rests in my pocket, its final words unread. P.S. Check the false bottom of the leftmost drawer. The real company books go back 5 generations. Every Thompson woman has added to them. Now it's your turn to write our true history. Some legacies, I'm learning, are written in ink. Others in actions. The best ones, perhaps, in both.
I never expected my grandmother's death to spark a war, but looking back, I should have seen it coming. The letter arrived 3 days after we buried her, its crisp white envelope carrying her familiar, elegant handwriting. My name, Callum, written in the careful loops and swirls I'd watched her perfect over countless Sunday afternoons in her garden. My name is Cal, and until last week, I was just the family disappointment, the hawthorn who chose dirt and plants over our prestigious restaurant legacy. Now I'm the unexpected heir to my grandmother's estate, and my entire family has lost their minds. I stood in Grandma Mabel's garden, her letter trembling in my hands as the evening sun cast long shadows across her prized rose bushes. The same roses she'd taught me to tend when I was just a kid with scraped knees and too many questions. You can't be serious. My brother Jackson's voice crackled through my phone's speaker. The house? The whole property? What about the restaurant? The letter's pretty clear, I said, scanning the words again. She left everything to me, Jax. The house, the garden, even her savings. This is bullshit, Cal, and you know it. His voice had that edge to it, the one that always preceded an explosion. Dad's already talking to lawyers. You need to do the right thing here. I watched a monarch butterfly land on one of Mabel's white roses. The right thing according to who? Dad. You. According to the family. That property could save the restaurant. We're struggling, Cal. You know this. The butterfly took flight, and I followed its path until it disappeared over the garden wall. Maybe if you and Dad hadn't sunk all that money into that ridiculous expansion. Don't. Jackson cut me off. Don't you dare criticize what you abandoned. Some of us actually stuck around to carry on the family legacy. I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. Funny how the only legacy that matters is the one you chose. Cal. A new voice joined the conversation, Bianca, Jackson's fiancée. Be reasonable. Your grandmother wouldn't have wanted to cause all this drama. She loved the restaurant too. Did she? I walked over to the greenhouse where Mabel and I had spent countless hours. Because according to this letter, she wanted me to have everything specifically to prevent it from being sold off to save the restaurant. The silence on the other end was deafening. Listen, Bianca's voice turned honey-sweet. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? We can discuss this as a family. Your mother's making your favorite pasta. I touched the greenhouse door, remembering how Mabel would always say, trust the garden, Cal. It never lies. Unlike people who could wrap manipulation in the guise of family dinner. Thanks, but I have plans. I didn't, but they didn't need to know that. I need to start sorting through Grandma's things. Cal, Jackson started, but I ended the call. Inside the greenhouse, everything was exactly as Mabel had left it. Her gardening gloves still draped over her favorite wooden chair, her tools arranged with military precision on the workbench. I unfolded her letter again, reading the last paragraph that had set this whole mess in motion. My dearest Cal, I know this decision won't be popular, but you're the only one who truly understands what I've built here. This garden isn't just plants and soil. It's a testament to choosing your own path, even when others can't understand it. Don't let them destroy it. And Cal, check behind the loose brick in the greenhouse's north wall. There's something else you need to see. I looked up at the north wall, where generations of ivy had made their home. Somewhere behind those leaves was another piece of Mabel's puzzle, and something told me it would only add fuel to this family fire. My phone buzzed again, a text from my mother this time. Your father is very disappointed. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I turned off my phone and started examining the wall. Whatever Mabel had hidden, I needed to find it before anyone else did. Because one thing was becoming crystal clear. This inheritance wasn't just about a house and garden. It was about to expose every crack in our family's carefully maintained facade. The The doorbell chimed just as I was prying at the loose brick in the greenhouse. Of course, they wouldn't wait for an invitation. Through the glass walls, I could see my parents' silhouettes approaching, my mother's pearls catching the late afternoon light. I quickly smoothed my dirt-covered hands on my jeans and met them at the garden path. My father's disapproving gaze swept over my casual attire, while my mother clutched her designer handbag like a shield. "Callum," my father said, using my full name, never a good sign. "We need to discuss this situation like adults." "I was just working in the greenhouse," I said, gesturing to my clothes. "Let me clean up and—" "Playing in the dirt again?" My mother's smile was tight. "Some things never change." We settled in Mabel's kitchen, where the ghost of countless Sunday dinners hung in the air. My mother immediately began straightening things, rearranging the fruit bowl as if its slightly askew position personally offended her. "The restaurant's in trouble, Cal," my father began, his voice carrying that familiar weight of expectation. "Real trouble. Your brother's been working himself to death trying to keep it afloat." "I heard about the expansion problems," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "The new location isn't performing well?" "Don't pretend you care now," my father snapped. "You walked away from all that responsibility years ago. Left it all on Jackson's shoulders." My mother touched his arm. "Everett, please. We're here to talk solutions." She turned to me, her expression softening in that calculated way I knew too well. "Sweetheart, this house. It's just too much for one person. And the maintenance costs alone." "I can manage," I said firmly. "Grandma Mabel taught me everything about maintaining the property." "Ah yes, all those hours wasted in that garden when you should have been learning the business," my father muttered. A memory surfaced, 16-year-old me, proudly showing my father the herb garden I'd planted for the restaurant's kitchen. His dismissive wave as he walked away, saying real men don't play in the dirt. I pushed the memory aside. "The property's value could save everything," my mother pressed on. "The restaurant, our family's legacy. What about Grandma's legacy?" I challenged. This garden was her life's work. "It's a hobby, Callum. The restaurant is our family's foundation." My phone buzzed, a text from Tessa. "Don't let them bulldoze you. Remember what Mabel always said about standing your ground." "I'm not selling," I said, standing up. "Grandma left this place to me for a reason." My father's face darkened. "You ungrateful." "Everett," my mother interrupted, her voice honey-sweet again. "Cal, darling, at least look at the offer we've prepared. It's very generous." She pulled out an envelope from her bag, sliding it across the kitchen table. I didn't touch it. "This isn't about money," I said. "This is about respecting Grandma's wishes." "Respect?" My father's laugh was harsh. "Where was your respect when you abandoned your family obligations? When you left your brother to shoulder everything alone?" "I didn't abandon anything," I shot back. "I chose a different path." Grandma understood that. "Your grandmother?" My mother hesitated, exchanging a look with my father. She wasn't thinking clearly near the end. "Perhaps if we contest the will." "Get out." The words came out quiet but firm. "Excuse me." My father's face reddened. "I said get out. Both of you. And take your offer with you." My mother's face crumpled in that practiced way that used to make me cave instantly. "Cal, please. Now." They left, my father's angry muttering mixing with my mother's theatrical sniffles. As their car pulled away, I noticed something had fallen from my mother's bag. A small notebook I recognized as Grandma Mabel's garden journal. Flipping it open, I found recent entries I'd never seen before, including one dated just weeks before her death. The words made my blood run cold. They're planning something. Must protect Cal. Must hide the truth about. The rest of the page was torn out. I looked back toward the greenhouse where the loose brick waited. Whatever Mabel had hidden, I needed to find it fast. Because now I knew, this wasn't just about the inheritance anymore. There was something else, something my family desperately wanted to keep buried. I was still trying to make sense of Mabel's torn journal entry when Tessa called. "You need to get down to the county clerk's office." "Now." "What? Why?" "Because your brother and his fiancée just walked in with a stack of papers, and I overheard them talking about property transfers." Tessa worked as a legal secretary there. "Something's not right, Cal." 20 minutes later, I was speed walking through the courthouse's marble halls, my muddy boots leaving tracks on the polished floor. I rounded the corner just in time to see Bianca at the clerk's window, sliding documents across the counter with perfectly manicured hands. "I need to see those papers," I said, stepping up beside her. Bianca's smile didn't waver, but her eyes went cold. "Cal, what a surprise. Family business, you know how it is." "Exactly. Which is why I need to see what you're filing." The clerk, an older woman with reading glasses perched on her nose, looked between us uncertainly. Sir, those documents concern my grandmother's property, I said firmly. I'm the legal owner. Actually, Jackson's voice came from behind me. That's what we're here to correct. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, but his jaw was set with determination. The will was never properly executed. We have proof. Proof? I laughed. What proof? Grandma Mabel wasn't competent when she made those changes, Bianca said smoothly. We have medical documentation. The clerk frowned. I'll need to verify. Here. Bianca produced another document with a flourish. Signed by her doctor. I snatched the paper before anyone could stop me. The signature at the bottom made my stomach drop, Dr. James Rivers. Bianca's father. This is fraud, I said, my voice shaking. Your father never treated Grandma. He consulted on her case, Bianca replied. And as a respected neurologist, his opinion carries weight. Mabel was sharp as a tack until the day she died. I snapped. Everyone knew that. Did they? Jackson stepped closer. Or did you just see what you wanted to see? Face it, Cal. She wasn't thinking clearly when she cut everyone else out. She didn't cut anyone out. She made a choice. A choice you manipulated her into making, Bianca said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. All those hours in the garden, playing the devoted grandson while the rest of the family actually worked. Don't you dare. What's going on here? A new voice cut through the tension. Martin Chun, the family's longtime lawyer, stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand. Martin, Jackson started, we were just filing fraudulent documents, it appears. Martin stepped forward, adjusting his glasses. I was Mabel's attorney for 30 years. I supervised the execution of her will, which was witnessed by 2 independent parties. She was completely competent. Bianca's smile finally cracked. This isn't your concern. Actually, it is. Martin turned to the clerk. Please note that any attempts to transfer this property without proper authority could constitute legal fraud. I'll be filing an injunction immediately. The clerk quickly gathered the papers, stamping them with a large red suspended mark. Jackson grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You're destroying this family. I looked at his hand, then into his eyes. No, Jax. You're doing that all on your own. Back in Mabel's garden, I finally found the loose brick and the envelope hidden behind it. Inside was a USB drive and another note. The truth about the restaurant's finances. Keep this safe. They'll try anything to hide what really happened to the money. My phone buzzed, a text from Bianca. This isn't over. You have no idea what you're up against. I looked at the USB drive in my hand, then at the garden where Mabel had taught me that growth sometimes requires cutting away the dead parts to save the whole. She'd known this was coming. She'd prepared for it. Game on, I whispered, pocketing the drive. Because now I understood. This wasn't just about saving her garden anymore. This was about exposing whatever rot had taken root in my family's foundation, no matter the cost. I started toward the house, already planning my next move. Behind me, storm clouds gathered over the garden, promising rain. Perfect weather for unearthing buried secrets. The email from Evergreen Landscapes arrived while I was reviewing the files on Mabel's USB drive. A job offer. Not just any job, but the kind that could define a career. Lead designer for their West Coast division, complete with a 6-figure salary and creative control over major projects. The catch? I'd have to move to Seattle. Leave the garden. Leave everything. I was still staring at the screen when Tessa showed up with coffee and a determined look in her eyes. You're brooding, she said, setting a cup beside me. I can smell it from the driveway. Look at this. I turned the laptop toward her, then gestured at the scattered financial documents surrounding it. And all this. The restaurant's been hemorrhaging money for years. But not because of bad business. Tessa leaned in, scanning the numbers. Someone's been cooking the books? More like feeding them steroids. The expansion money? Most of it disappeared into offshore accounts. I rubbed my eyes. Jackson's signature is all over these transfers, but the patterns. They're too sophisticated for him. Bianca, Tessa said quietly. She worked in corporate finance before getting engaged to Jackson. My phone buzzed, another text from Martin Chin. Meeting tomorrow. Bring the evidence. And Cal, watch your back. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the window, I spotted a sleek black car I didn't recognize. Mr. Hawthorne? A woman in a crisp suit stood at the door, flanked by 2 men carrying briefcases. I'm Rebecca Walsh, representing Evergreen Landscapes. We were in the area and thought we'd discuss our offer in person. My stomach dropped. No one just happens to be in the area with a full legal team. This isn't a good time. Actually, she stepped forward, it's the perfect time, especially given your current family situation. The way she said it made my skin crawl. In the kitchen, Tessa was quickly gathering the scattered documents. How did you know about that? Rebecca smiled. We do our homework, Mr. Hawthorne. We also know about the attempted property transfer today. You're fighting a losing battle here. We're offering you an exit strategy. The garden can be maintained by professionals. We'll even include it in your contract. But you need to decide quickly. She checked her watch. Before things get messy, eh? What does that mean? It means your brother's fiancé has friends in high places. The kind who can make fraud allegations stick, regardless of truth. The kind who can ensure you never work in this industry again. My hands clenched. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you protection. And an opportunity. She placed her card on the counter. You have 24 hours. Choose wisely. After they left, Tessa found me in the greenhouse, aggressively pruning Mabel's roses. Cal, stop. You're butchering them. I looked down at the mangled stems. They knew about the property transfer attempt. Hours after it happened. How? Because this was never just about the garden. Tessa picked up one of the fallen roses. Think about it. The restaurant's money laundering, Bianca's connections, this sudden job offer. They're trying to get you out of the way. But why? What's so important about this property? Tessa's eyes widened as she looked past me. Cal, the zoning maps in Mabel's files. Did you check them? I hadn't. We rushed back to the laptop, pulling up the documents. There it was, a proposed rezoning plan for the entire neighborhood, with Mabel's property at its center. Prime location for a massive commercial development. This is what they're after, I whispered. The garden's just collateral damage. My phone buzzed again, Jackson. Take the job offer, Cal. Please. While you still can. For the first time, I heard real fear in my brother's message. Whatever was happening, he was in deep. Maybe too deep. The rose in Tessa's hand had left a trail of petals on the floor. Red drops like blood, marking a path I had to choose. Run toward safety or stay and fight, knowing it might cost me everything. Mabel's voice echoed in my memory. Sometimes the hardest growth comes from standing your ground. I picked up Rebecca's card and slowly tore it in half. Call Martin, I told Tessa. Tell him to bring everything he has tomorrow. It's time to prune the family tree. Martin Chen's office felt too small for the weight of what we were discussing. The financial records from Mabel's USB drive were spread across his desk like a paper trail of betrayal, each document adding another layer to the conspiracy. They're planning to demolish the entire historic district, Martin said, adjusting his glasses. Your grandmother's property is the keystone. Without it, their development plans fall apart. And the restaurant? I asked, though I already knew the answer. A front. They've been laundering money through it for years. Your brother's signature is on everything, but, Martin hesitated. But what? The patterns match other cases I've seen. Cases involving the Rivers family's development company. My phone buzzed, a text from Jackson. Need to talk. Alone. Please. I showed Martin the message. He shook his head. Don't go. It's too risky. But I was already standing. He's still my brother. The restaurant was closed when I arrived, but the lights were on. Through the window, I could see Jackson sitting at the bar, looking older than his 34 years. You shouldn't have come, he said as I walked in. But I'm glad you did. Start talking. He poured 2 whiskeys, sliding one toward me. I never wanted any of this. The restaurant, the expansion, the development deals, it was all Dad and Bianca. I just wanted to make them proud. He laughed bitterly. To survive. You got out, Cal. You had the courage to walk away. I got trapped. So tell the truth. Help me stop them. I can't. His hands shook as he reached for his glass. Bianca's father. He doesn't just destroy businesses, Cal. He destroys lives. The front door chimed. Bianca walked in, followed by my father and 2 men I didn't recognize. Well, isn't this touching? Bianca's smile was sharp. The prodigal brothers reunited at last. You set me up, I said to Jackson. He couldn't meet my eyes. Nothing personal, one of the men said, moving to block the exit. Just business. My father stepped forward. Sign the papers, Cal. Transfer the property. We can all walk away from this. Walk away. I laughed. Like you walked away from Grandma Mabel when she refused to sell? Is that why she died so suddenly? The room went silent. Jackson's face drained of color. Careful, little brother, Bianca warned. Some accusations can't be taken back. Like money laundering? Or fraud? I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. Everything you just said is being recorded and live-streamed to Tessa. The bigger man started forward, but Bianca held up her hand. You're bluffing. Check your phones, I said. It should be hitting social media right about now. They all reached for their phones. In the chaos, I edged toward the door. You idiot, my father snarled. You'll destroy everything. No, I said. You did that yourself. I'm just pruning away the rot. I made it outside just as police sirens started wailing in the distance. Tessa was waiting in her car around the corner, engine running. Did you get it? I asked as I jumped in. She held up her phone, grinning. Every word. The police and FBI are on their way. Martin's meeting us at the station. As we drove away, I watched the restaurant shrink in the rearview mirror. The place that had imprisoned my brother and corrupted my family, now about to become a crime scene. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from an unknown number. Your grandmother would be proud. But this isn't over. I stared at the message, wondering if it was from Martin or someone else. Because despite everything we'd just exposed, something told me we'd only scratched the surface of what Mabel had discovered. You okay? Tessa asked. I thought about Jackson's haunted eyes, my father's rage, and Bianca's cold smile. About the garden waiting at home, where tomorrow I'd plant new seeds in soil enriched by everything that had died before. No, I said honestly. But I will be. The sirens grew louder behind us, their wail mixing with the night air like justice finally breaking free of its chains. Sometimes I realized revenge doesn't taste like victory. Sometimes it tastes like survival. The wedding invitation arrived exactly 1 month after my father's arrest. Cream-colored paper with gold embossing, like nothing was wrong. Like our family hadn't just imploded in a scandal that made headlines across 3 states. You're not actually going, Tessa said, watching me turn the invitation over in my hands. We were sitting in Mabel's kitchen, where the morning light still couldn't chase away the shadows of recent events. Jackson posted bail for Dad, I said. Used everything he had left. That's not an answer. I traced the embossed letters. Despite everything, the fraud charges, the ongoing investigation, the revelations about Mabel's death, Jackson and Bianca were moving forward with their wedding. At the restaurant, of all places, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. He's your father, Cal. Whatever you think he did, he doesn't deserve this. Another message followed. Jackson needs his brother there. Please don't make this harder. I laughed bitterly. Make this harder? They tried to frame me for fraud, threatened me with thugs, and possibly. I couldn't finish the sentence about Mabel. The investigation was still ongoing, but the evidence pointed to her death being far from natural. Which is exactly why you shouldn't go, Tessa insisted. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Martin Chen's car in the driveway. It's not good, he said as soon as I let him in. The Rivers family is pushing back hard. Their lawyers are trying to discredit the evidence, claiming it was obtained illegally. But the live stream? They're saying it was edited, manipulated. Martin looked exhausted. And Jackson? He's changed his statement. Says you set them up, that you're the one who orchestrated everything. The kitchen suddenly felt too small. Through the window, I could see Mabel's garden, where the roses she'd loved so much were beginning to wilt. Why would he do that? Because I had to. Jackson's voice came from the doorway. None of us had heard him come in. He looked terrible, thin, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. They have Mom, Cal. What? She's resting at Bianca's family estate. They're calling it a nervous breakdown, but... He swallowed hard. I had to change my statement. I had to protect her. The pieces clicked into place. The wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a show of force. A message that the Rivers family was still in control. The invitation, I said slowly. It's a trap, isn't it? Jackson wouldn't meet my eyes. Just come to the wedding, Cal. Please. Make a speech, wish us well, show everyone that the family drama was overblown. Maybe then what? They'll let Mom go. They'll forget about destroying everything Mabel built. They'll let us live, Jackson whispered. After he left, I stood in the garden, surrounded by dying roses. Everything Mabel had created, everything she'd fought to protect, was slipping away. And now I had to choose between justice for her death and my mother's safety. There might be another way, Martin said, joining me outside. But it's risky, and you'd have to trust me completely. I looked at the wilting garden, remembering Mabel's words about growth requiring sacrifice. About how sometimes you had to cut away what you love to save what matters most. Whatever it takes, I said. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from Bianca. Looking forward to having the whole family together again. Don't forget to wear black. It's a formal affair after all. The threat wasn't even subtle anymore. Wear black like we're all attending a funeral. Maybe we were. I picked up a dead rose, its petals crumbling in my hand. Tell me the plan, Martin, and then help me find a suit. Because sometimes, to save what you love, you have to walk straight into the dragon's lair. Even if you know you might not walk back out. Tessa touched my arm. Cal. I know, I said, watching the rose petals scatter in the wind. But Mabel taught me that every garden needs pruning sometimes, even if it means cutting all the way down to the roots. The restaurant gleamed like a funeral parlor, all black ties and forced smiles. I adjusted my dark suit, the same one I'd worn to Mabel's funeral, and walked into the lion's den. Bianca had transformed the place, replacing its warm family atmosphere with cold elegance. Black roses everywhere, their thorns prominently displayed. A message just for me. Cal. My mother's voice trembled as she approached, flanked by two of Bianca's cousins, men with hard eyes and concealed weapons. You came. Her hands shook as she reached for me, and I saw the faint bruising around her wrist. My blood boiled, but I kept my face neutral. Martin's plan required patience. Wouldn't miss it, I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Where's the happy couple? Making an entrance, of course. Mayor Davidson appeared beside me, champagne in hand. Though I must say, I'm more interested in your work, Cal. That community garden project of yours has everyone talking. Bianca materialized before I could respond, resplendent in white. Mayor Davidson, I'm so glad you could make it. Though perhaps we should discuss the development proposal, rather than gardening. Actually, the mayor said, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Seems there are some irregularities in the paperwork. A commotion near the entrance cut him off. Jackson burst in, his face ashen. The FBI. There! The doors flew open. Agents poured in, led by Martin Chun, not just a lawyer, but a federal investigator who'd been building this case for years. Nobody move. Martin's voice boomed. We have warrants for multiple arrests. Bianca's smile turned razor-sharp. This is a private event. Whatever you think you have. We have everything, I said quietly. The real estate fraud, the money laundering, the offshore accounts. And Mabel's autopsy results. Her composure cracked. You're bluffing. The garden soil, Bianca. Did you know Mabel tested it regularly? Kept records of every chemical change. I stepped closer, including the poison that showed up 3 days before she died. One of Bianca's cousins reached inside his jacket. 3 agents immediately drew weapons. It's over, Martin announced. Bianca Rivers, Everett Hawthorne, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and first-degree murder. My father, who'd been silent until now, lunged for me. You ungrateful. Jackson caught him, surprising everyone. Stop, Dad. Just stop. The mayor watched in shock as agents led Bianca away. My God, I had no idea. That's why they wanted the garden gone, I said. It held the evidence. Mabel knew what they were doing, so they killed her. But she'd already prepared her revenge. The inheritance, Jackson whispered. She left it to you because I was the only one who would understand the garden's secrets. I touched one of the black roses. She taught me that every plant tells a story if you know how to read it. As the chaos unfolded, my mother collapsed into my arms, finally free from her captors. I'm so sorry, Cal. We should have listened. Mrs. Hawthorne, Martin interrupted gently. We'll need your statement about your detention at the Rivers estate. I watched them lead my father away in handcuffs, saw Bianca's mask of sophistication crumble as agents read her rights. The restaurant, the source of so much family strife, would likely be seized as evidence. Jackson stood alone by the altar, his world imploding. What happens now? Now! I looked at the black roses, thinking of Mabel's garden waiting at home. Now we start over. Plant something new. Together? He sounded like the brother I'd once known, before ambition and greed poisoned everything. Maybe, if you're willing to get your hands dirty. The mayor cleared his throat. Speaking of new growth, Cal, I'd love to discuss expanding your community garden project. The city could use more of your expertise. Outside, police lights painted the night in red and blue. Inside, among the wreckage of what was supposed to be a wedding, I felt Mabel's presence. She'd known it would end this way. Not with a celebration of love, but with justice finally blooming through the cracks of our broken family. I loosened my black tie. Tomorrow, I'd plant white roses in the garden. But tonight, there was one more truth to unearth. 1 year later, I stood in Mabel's garden, my garden now, watching Jackson struggle with a particularly stubborn root. His prison-pale skin was slowly gaining color under the summer sun. "You're doing it wrong," I said, kneeling beside him. "Here, like this." I demonstrated the proper angle, remembering Mabel teaching me the same lesson years ago. 3 months into his community service, and my brother was finally learning the difference between weeds and wildflowers. The judge had been surprisingly poetic in her sentencing. Help restore what his actions had helped destroy. "The mayor called again," Tessa said, appearing with 3 glasses of lemonade. "The community garden network is ready to expand to the next district." I nodded, watching a monarch butterfly land on one of Mabel's white roses, the ones I'd replanted after the wedding that never was. The restaurant was gone now, converted into the city's first urban farming education center. Sometimes karma has a green thumb. "Mom's therapy is going well," Jackson said quietly, accepting the lemonade. "She's talking about volunteering at the center, teaching kids about herbs and cooking. Our father's trial had broken something in her, but like the garden after winter, she was slowly coming back to life. Some plants need severe pruning to grow back stronger." "Found something else too," Jackson added, pulling a weathered envelope from his pocket. "Behind the old restaurant's wine cellar wall during demolition. It's from Mabel." My hands trembled as I opened it. The paper was old, but the words were clear. "My dearest boys, if you're reading this, then everything has happened as I feared it might. But remember, even the hardest soil can nurture new growth if you're willing to work it together." "There's more," Jackson said, his voice thick. "Look at the date. The letter was written the day before she died. She'd known what was coming, had planted the seeds of justice even in her final hours." "Cal!" My mother's voice came from the garden path. She looked smaller now, humbler, but her eyes were clear. "The Heritage Rose Society called. They want to register Mabel's white hybrid officially. Did they say what they'll name it?" She smiled softly. "They're calling it Mabel's Truth." I looked around at what we'd built from the ashes of our family's implosion. The garden had expanded, now feeding 3 local food banks. The education center was thriving. Even Bianca's father's development company had crumbled under federal investigation. "You know what's weird?" Jackson said, finally defeating the stubborn root. "I always thought the restaurant was our legacy. But Mabel knew better. She saw what really needed to grow." A familiar voice seemed to whisper in the breeze. "Trust the garden, Cal. It never lies." "There's something else," Tessa said, holding up her tablet. "Remember that mysterious text you got?" Martin finally traced it. It wasn't from him. Then who? Margaret Rivers, Bianca's grandmother. Turns out she and Mabel were friends in college. She's been feeding information to the FBI for years, trying to stop her own family's corruption. I thought about karma again, about how the truth finds its way to the surface like a determined seedling pushing through concrete. The garden needs a new section, I decided. Something to mark everything that's happened. "Any ideas?" Jackson stood, brushing dirt from his knees. "What about a maze? But instead of walls, we use flowering vines. Something that looks complicated from the outside, but actually leads to something simple. Like truth," our mother added softly. I picked up my gardening tools, Mabel's old ones that still fit my hands perfectly. "Better get started then. These things take time to grow." As we worked together under the summer sun, I realized that revenge, like gardening, isn't about destruction. It's about clearing space for something better to grow. Mabel had taught me that, in her own way, through every seed we'd planted together. The butterfly took flight, rising above the garden where our family was slowly, steadily, putting down new roots. Different from the ones we'd had before, but stronger for having weathered the storm. Sometimes the best revenge is simply growing beyond what others thought possible.